Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Monday Night Rewind. This is Lewis here with Top Row Racing Media. I already have Buju in the staging area, Drew Jackson in the staging area, Wiktor just popped in, Jeremy's already in there, and so is Joel. So we have a packed house ready to go. Here at 7:05, we're going to bring on Wiktor and Jeremy. I felt bad I didn't have a picture of Jeremy. I thought I did, so that's why he doesn't have his own graphic, but we're going to fix that next time we're at the track together. But anyways, we'll have Wiktor on about 7:05 with Jeremy, and we're going to be talking about the M40 event over the weekend and how they found themselves in that spot to be there with the truck, Mo's truck from South Bend. And then at 7:35, we're going to have Joel from the Kalamazoo Speedway and Kalamazoo Mini Wedges. I know he'll also be joining them at Berlin from time to time with the Mini Wedges, so we're going to have Joel on. And then from Illinois, so we have all three states in our area represented. Michigan, Indiana, and now Illinois, where we have Brian from Grundy County Speedway who will be joining us. He's been a race director at Grundy County Speedway. He's been a flagman at South Bend, racer at Indiana Motor Speedway, and all over. So again, at 7:05 Illinois time for our Illinois listeners, but 8:05 for the rest of us over on this side. He will be on then. So definitely share out, do all the different things. As a quick reminder before we get too deep into the show, Thursday Night Throttle does come back this Thursday at 7 p.m. where we preview the area schedule with all the tracks between Michigan, Indiana, sometimes Ohio, sometimes Illinois, and try to get everyone knowing where they can find themselves on a Friday, Saturday, or once again this Sunday when the Mini Wedges return to Kalamazoo. So other than that, it's showtime. Let me bring in Drew in here because he's kind of hiding in the staging area. I don't know. It didn't pop him on for some reason. So we have Drew now. So Drew, welcome. Are you in Canada right now?
I am not. I am visiting a sponsor today, so I am on the road just like our next guest here. But how are you guys doing tonight?
I'm tired. What about you?
It's just the grind. The season has started, and Kalamazoo and New Paris and M40 are full bore, and the traveling series starts this weekend, and it's going to be a busy summer. So,
yeah. And Buju, how's your Monday going? I know you made your announcing debut at the New Paris Speedway. So, what did you think about that?
Saturday was a blast. I've said it on Facebook and everything, but I can't say enough about the New Paris team, and made me feel super welcome right away as an anxious boy. So that was very nice. And yeah, it was so fun on Saturday. I got pretty good feedback. So, it seems like it went pretty well. And I think I'm doing it 3 more times this year. So,
yeah, Chris said right away, he told Tracy that we gave him the dates that Jeremy won't be there. And I know a lot of people have commented, one, who was that announcer? Because he was really good. And I was telling Tracy because she heard about the street stock race and get to see the street stock race. And I said, well, when you listen to it, I said, Buju made it even more exciting.
I was pacing the announcement. I was probably driving Steven and Bree crazy in there.
But, again, and we need that, right? Because you and I talked that, you don't just have announcers growing on trees, right? And so, you have to find someone who not only can deliver and manage a program, because you're managing a program, you're managing the feel of the race, the feel of the night. Are people just in there, twiddling their thumbs, going, "Wow, it's really quiet," or whatever, especially during that downtime. So, I know you're in my left ear, so just hearing you, I'm like, okay, this is going to be, he's into it, and when you have that passion for it, right, it makes it nice too. Just like with Joel, that's I really like what he does at Kalamazoo and has a different cadence to him than what you get at maybe other places. And so that's, again, everyone's at least being unique and being themselves and not just copycatting one to the other.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely tried to be myself. And there's also like we talked about last week beforehand, I'm definitely influenced by others. I could feel it as stuff was coming out of my mouth while I was announcing Saturday. But yeah, it was a good time.
You didn't do the grandma's cookies on the top shelf, did you?
Didn't do that one.
That might be patent.
Well, again, I know we have a packed show. It's almost 7:05 here, so I do want to thank our sponsors really quick: Federated Auto Parts, ELH Detailing, and of course, National Compacts Touring Series, which is owned by Drew Jack, who is joining us on the road. But I know I'm really excited. We were going to have Rich Bull on, but he was sick. I told him even on Saturday, I was surprised that he was racing because, I mean, he didn't look well. He didn't sound well, but Haley really wanted to race. And so they came out to race, and then he did really well. I mean, you can't tell the way he raced that he, just felt awful. And so, that street stock race, I know a lot of new Paris people, they got used to it being on Sunday. And I'm like, well, I was at an event, and pretty much the whole month of May I'm at an event. So things probably aren't really going to be uploaded by Sunday, going forward, especially when I go to Corrigan in a few weeks. That's a longer trip for me. So I cannot stay up till 8 a.m. again and then try to turn around and get to Corrigan. It's just not going to happen. So with that, are you ready to get the ball rolling?
Yes, sir. It's a big first guest here. So
yeah, I mean, again, what they did on Sunday yesterday at M40 was incredible. And obviously Wiktor and Jeremy were a big part of that. So excited to bring them on. But before we get them on, again, if you can like the podcast, it gets it out there, comment, say your favorite thing from over the weekend that you saw, share it out. Just click the share button and that'll get it out there and say, join us live. Because again, we're on for about 2 hours with guests all across the time. So with that, let's go ahead and we're going to bring on Wiktor and Jeremy to the show. So again, welcome.
Hello, my friends.
How is the Soviet inspector doing?
I am still tired and terrified, and I apologize. I will be drinking my 11th cup of coffee throughout this entire thing. It is this kind of become routine now.
Well, with that, I mean, I know you guys put in a lot of hours and a lot of time to even get to Sunday. And I know the other day you guys made a video where you're like, wow, that's like 3 days from now. So, so if you two want to just really break it down into one, how you met, how you came across each other, just that story. 2, Wiktor, how you found yourself at M40 Speedway, because even that in itself, right? You're from Florida, so you're new to this area.
I don't think we have enough time for that story.
Okay. Either way, how you guys came across each other, then we can talk about the truck, what it was like going through. So why don't we start there, Jeremy and Wiktor? How did you find each other?
We met through a mutual friend, Frank Gasco. I hung out with him, and he called me one evening and said, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Nothing." And he said, "Well, come to my friend Jeremy's house. We're doing race car stuff." And within 3 minutes of meeting Jeremy, I realized that he is one of my people. And I mean, from there, the rest is kind of a long and weird story about getting a truck donated to us, and then Jeremy's welding skills being unleashed with my Soviet nonsense in the background and in his ear.
That's a whole lot longer explanation of just that. It's Frank's fault.
Yeah, it's Frank's fault. It's Frank's fault. That actually works out perfectly.
Just one word, Frank.
So Frank's fault. Well, and I almost thought about bringing him on too, but I know after running the event yesterday and doing all that, I thought, I mean, I know you guys participated and you had a huge part, but I'm like, he probably just needs a little recovery time too. So I
had quite a bit going on yesterday.
Yeah, I thought,
he was here just a few minutes ago.
Oh.
And he was like, I'm going home. I'm whooped.
Yeah. That's why I didn't even reach out to him. And I almost had asked you guys yesterday afterwards, because I knew Rich being sick, that I almost was going to say, hey, but then I didn't want to jinx it just in case Rich got better or whatever. So I'm like, no, I don't want to jinx it. Plus they're also off an adrenaline high and they're just probably exhausted too. And everything, finally, the world just kind of lifts. Right. So with that, I'm like, no, I won't ask. But then when Rich sent the message this morning, I'm like, I know who I'm going to first. So
yeah, if you would have asked me last night, I can't speak for Jeremy, but if you would have asked me last night, I probably would have responded with just crying and babbling and just for several minutes.
Yeah, I don't give up that easy. I might have teared up just a little bit. I'm not going to fall and cry, though.
Not again, anyway.
Not again, anyways. Yeah. But
stop playing.
It was a stressful 72 hours. The last 72 hours were a little bit high stress and low sleep, to say the least.
Well, and so with that, do you want to talk a little bit about again, just the event in itself, because, Wiktor, that was your first time, you had said yesterday, on the track and doing all that.
That was well, to begin with, it was I don't know if I can say I enjoyed the event at the time. Looking back at it, a solid 24 hours later, I had a blast. At the time when I got there, Frank did a great job of terrifying me. And right around the test phase of, hey, we need to feel how this truck is driving and listen and smell, Frank said, no, let's just find out if she'll do a $120 around the backstretch. And well, I don't think we got anywhere clear to that speed. It was a, from that point on, the anxiety was high pretty much until we got the truck out of the trailer at the end of the night.
Well, and so Jeremy, you got to ride along. So what do you think, being the passenger, especially with Wiktor, with his first go around? I mean, he did some practice laps, and then Frank, laid it out there, and that's how that's how ABC 57 got a hold of the video. They're like, hey, we saw this, and we've been following Mo's story. Can we use this? And so, that practice time. So what about for you, being in the passenger seat, watching this all come together, all your hard work that you put into this truck?
Well, I have to admit, the first time that Wiktor really cut it loose there going into 3 and 4, I was like, he might be coming in a little hot here. This could be bad, but he kept it under control, and it was a really good time. Yeah, yesterday was really just a blur for me. I had thought about trying to do something with that truck months ago, and somehow slipped up and said something to Vic about it, and he's like, hold on just a minute. And next thing I know, I've got a message, and he said, hey, we've got the truck. So the rest is history.
Well, so for fans who may not know and may not have seen exactly what you did yesterday, why don't we take a look and watch what you guys were able to do? So again, this is the outside view from the tower, and Stephen Emmons is chasing down, landed inside there. Jason wasn't sure if he was all the way on. Me, I'm going, my camera's still there. My camera's still there. And then I'm going, stop hitting the trailer. Stop hitting the trailer. Because, I'm like, hey, we got, mission accomplished. But I'm like, they're going to destroy this thing on the track, and I'm going to have to go hunt down my camera. That was my thought. But then it was also kind of like a holy, crap moment of watching this.
So full disclosure, because I have gotten a lot of people telling me that it was awesome that I took it for another lap after the trailer was loaded. Had I known that the trailer was loaded, I would not have gone for another lap. That's another story of Frank's fault. It was his job to let us know we were loaded, and he did after a victory lap, apparently.
Well, and that's what.
Yeah.
So let's see what it looked like from the inside as you're taking this extra lap. Once Stephen Emmons was able to, and he got a good jump off that line, and as he's chasing down, and
front end over.
He nailed that. I mean, shout out to just, I mean, he nailed that.
And
he's just doing what Steve does.
Yeah, well, and he even gave a little salute. I don't know if he knew the camera was right from her or not, but because it was up there. So, but everyone knew that it was in there, right? But they didn't know where it was, and so, but he did a little salute, and he probably would have seen a red light flashing at him. But again, this is as you're going, you can tell he's kind of getting beat up in here, and I turn the sound off just so we can talk over it. But you'll see now you're stopped on the backstretch. Now that's where they stopped you, and safety will be coming over shortly. I didn't get anyone claiming this was AI. I was actually super impressed. I was waiting for that to be like, this is AI, because anything awesome is AI nowadays.
Listen. Like I said, if anybody claims that's AI, I'll show up at their doorstep. That was with the stress I had to go through. You're not calling that AI.
But again, because I know we had some people just joining in. So again, you're taking this lap. You don't know that's quite loaded. You know you're being hunted down. I think Frank Gasco put it best. You only had a few seconds because, just landed perfect, drove right into it. again, Russell's just figuring out a way to take something that was already a success and adding a little extra to it. And so from the stands, that was just impressive to watch. When I watched this GoPro footage, I'm like, okay, all the stress I went through of like, okay, am I going to get the shot? Is the camera going to survive? If this implodes, how's it going to implode? Am I going to be chasing the camera in the woods, right? Like all the things going through my head. And it's like it all, like you plan for worst case scenario and you guys got best case scenario.
Oh, absolutely. We got best case scenario.
So, Wiktor, I got a question for you. You put a lot of time and effort into this. It's for the kids. So talk about the baseball field that you're raising money for, how people can still raise money for that, and how you got involved with that.
So I want to be upfront. I put a lot of time into it. The hard work and effort is going to go all to Jeremy, because if it wasn't for him, his welding skills, his ability to keep me calm, cool, collected, none of that would have been possible. So Jeremy needs a lot of the credit for that, because if it wasn't for him, it would still be in two pieces and probably still misfiring. But aside from that, it's the Southeast Little League in Southeast Ballpark. The fundraisers are still ongoing. You can go to their Facebook page, and if you want to donate, they have the links there. I don't handle any of the money. I'm not going to be responsible for that. I'll do the crazy stuff and put my life on the line. Someone else can do the complicated part of accounting and all of that. But yeah, I mean, it was. Jeremy sent me a text of the picture of the truck. I happened to be raking the field right next to a Gates Chevrolet banner. So I was like, well, wait a second. And next thing I know, Gates Chevrolet was all excited about doing something with the truck, or to just get it off of their lot. One of the two. And then we got it. We got it to Jeremy's house, and the rest is history. He went to town. I was a bug in his ear. He did all the framework. I did a lot of maybe some of the designing and the engine work. I will also point out the engine was the weakest part of the vehicle. So again, Jeremy should get all the credit for the hard work.
No, absolutely. Jeremy's got a lot of experience with the Night Instructions and putting these shows together with Frank, and it's certainly a team effort. So the Facebook page of the Little League field again, and then they have a link on there that you can donate to, or some instructions on how you can.
Yes, and that's the Southeast Ballpark on Facebook.
Nice. So if anybody wants to give a donation, I think you guys, as of last night, were a little over $1,000 for the efforts of Jeremy and Frank, and can't forget the Russell family either for providing the racetrack. And of course,
a big shout out to Tubba Towels for their donation as well.
Absolutely.
So Jeremy, do you want to go a little bit into what it took then to get the truck together? Because some people may not know most truck. I mean, for us who live here and probably watch either WNDU or WSBT or part 574 Nosy Neighbors or C574 Nosy Neighbors, whatever it may be, those people may know, but others may not know. So like when you guys got the truck, what was like the condition of it, and what did you have to do to just get it to survive not only yesterday, but future fundraising events?
Well, when we brought that thing in, as you can tell by looking at the pictures of it, the passenger side spring was all the way up through the bed floor. The shackle hanger was long gone. The whole rear section of the frame was in the bed, and the bumper was still attached to it along with a hitch. We went over and looked at it at Gates in South Bend, and I went, this is going to be a lot of work, but I think I can do it. We brought it home. We supported the center of the frame on jack stands, and we pulled 3 bolts. And the whole back end of the truck came off. Had we not put those 2 jack stands underneath the frame, that whole truck would have collapsed on itself as we pulled those 3 bed bolts. There's absolutely nothing left of that frame from the front spring hanger all the way back. So I looked at it, thought about it. It's like, okay, we have solid frame here and we have solid frame here. Let's just build a tube frame on top of it. We built the tube frame. I actually built new shackle hangers for the rear of the spring. And we went ahead and secured all that in. When we did that, we're like, okay, well, Now we have to make sure it sits so it looks like Mo's truck. So we raised the rear shackles up a little bit. We remounted the bed on top of that and made sure to make it look authentic for what it is. We don't want to lose that iconic look. The Chevy truck world loves this thing for whatever reason. I've gotten a lot of hate in the comments or of the pictures and stuff that I've posted of it. So I wanted to keep it looking like Mo's truck. And Wiktor and Johnny both agreed it's got to stay that way. So we tried to keep it as authentic as possible while putting back in some structural integrity. We added the bar behind the cab. That way, if something comes through the trailer, we've got some protection inside. Of course, we had to add a trailer hitch. We almost forgot that on Saturday night. But yeah, that would have been kind of important. But, yeah, that's about what we did with it. Sort of showing pictures. It was a lot of work. I really second guessed myself a couple of times. I'm like, are you sure you should be doing this? Is this going to be safe? No, it turned out perfect.
It works out that you were second guessing during the building, because I was second guessing from about the second I got out of the passenger seat with Frank until I got out of the driver's seat after the race. So I'm glad I wasn't the only one second guessing my life choices.
To be fair, Johnny didn't weld the ramps on the trailer until Sunday morning, so you were ahead of his schedule. So.
Just a little bit.
We might have skipped the safety cage inside to talk to WSBT, and there was a little bit of a rush there, so it was like safety cage, local news.
They don't call us the last minute mafia for nothing.
Well, and so do you want to talk a little bit, not to segue too far, but again, and Drew alluded to it, you have been, just like with Frank, right? Like you and Frank go back a long ways, Jeremy, and you have been in the Night of Destruction scene in this area for a really long time. Do you want to talk a little bit about like even that, and then how does like yesterday's experience, because you made a really, awesome post yesterday, just like, this is probably the best thing I've experienced, and you have had a very successful career in Night of Destruction, right? So you want to talk a little bit about like your Night of Destruction background, and then what made that moment yesterday stand out to all the moments you have?
Well, I started out, I'm going to say I started out in 98 with a group of friends that I met through Career Center. Some of you may know Norm Sprout Jr., Tiny Lancaster. Hanging around with those guys, they kind of drug me into the Derby world. Met John Heimgartner and then Dave Hare and Stevie Smith all through that. I kind of stuck to the Derby thing. In 2001, I did run an enduro car at New Paris. We had a 200-lap enduro. I made it exactly 1/8 of a lap. Another car exactly like mine caught on fire and caught the whole backstretch on fire. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't think I want to do this right now. So we ran their figure eights for the rest of the season. Then, like I said, I ran the Derby stuff up until I think my last one was 2013. And we had kind of dabbled in the New Paris spectator stuff. They weren't really doing Night of Destruction type stuff. Their spectator races turned into a full contact thing for a while. Frank got back into it, and I had been to a couple of them, and I was like, maybe I'll get into that at some point. Frank invited me out one night to New Paris and said, man, I'm racing. This is my first time. And I've been hooked ever since. Little sidetrack backstory. Frank and I actually met while talking back and forth on Facebook on a South Bend Motor Speedway post. I had no idea who he was. Happened to be coming home from work one day, spotted him on the side of County Road 17, broken down with his friend David. I went, wait a minute, that's Frank's Firebird. turned around, went back. I ended up out there like 2:00 in the morning helping them out. And then we've been two peas in a pod ever since.
Well, and Frank is just, he's one of those awesome guys anyways, right? I mean, he's just down to earth. He's real, authentically himself is what I like to say. And that's tough, sometimes, right? Because, he definitely wears his emotions on his sleeves, but I think that's what makes him so relatable to so many people. And he's knowledgeable, and he has life experience behind him that, I'm a huge fan of him.
He let me drive that truck around the track with the trailer. I don't know if we'll use the term knowledgeable, but aside from that, okay, maybe.
Well, but they recruited again, Wiktor. If you want to talk a little bit about how, you came up from Florida, right? So you're new to this area, and well, I mean, you're also Soviet, but we don't need the government coming and chasing you down quite yet, right? But you brought the sunshine up though yesterday, but anyways, you were at Hartford last year and you helped with Hartford and you got involved with them, and that was even part of Drew Jack's show turned into Drew Jack's show too. So do you want to talk a little bit about like how you got into racing and what it's like to be a vehicle inspector and your knowledge within that area too?
So I mean I've loved cars for my entire life, and last year I think it was around July, one of my coworkers, David Gales, he bought a truck, another GMT 800 as a matter of fact, and he started putting some stuff together while he was at the shop in his time off. And as we were talking, he was like, "Hey, they have a mattress race. You should come out and hold the mattress for me. It might scare you, but you might have a good time." And meeting the Dibbles, they're great people as well. Getting onto that track for all of 5 minutes is all it took. The hook was sunk in, and that's it. I am here. And it's funny the way that Frank was brought up, because that's actually how I met him as well. Is I just one afternoon I didn't have anything to do with the kids. They had some racing going on at Russell's, and I commented, "Hey, maybe I go out there." And Frank was like, "Maybe you should come and talk to me." And next thing I know, I'm in the booth, and he's shoving a deep fried Uncrustable in my face, and he has been changing my life ever since.
And you were paid on Uncrustables. You were, we got that on live. You're going down in that pit area, and you were handing them out.
Speaking of which, I will be honest. I think I love the Russells, and Johnny was great, but I think my cardiologist is going to have a conversation with him, because handing me a platter of 25 deep fried Uncrustables. I enjoyed it. I had a great time, but Dr. Peters might not.
I think we should renegotiate rather than the deep fried Uncrustables. I think we go for the turkey sliders next time.
Yeah, for real. Those turkey sliders were, and really bringing up my cardiologist about this, with the amount of energy drinks we consumed in the last 48 hours. I shouldn't be talking about the Uncrustables being bad for my health.
We should really probably talk to Monster about a sponsorship too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They might find a red blood cell or two in Jeremy's Monster stream.
I mean, you don't have to put a number on it, but let's say there's a number. How many hours do you think total went from the moment that the truck showed up to the time it arrived to Russell's that you put into it work-wise ish?
There was not a night in the last 5 days I left Jeremy's house before midnight.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm fairly confident when I came back the next day, there was more stuff done to it than when I had left. So I'm willing to bet he did not go to bed when I left. I would say easily 65 to 70 hours in the last 5 days.
I was thinking probably somewhere around 80 between the two of us. And we had Frank stop by and help some. Frank's a busy cat, so
we might need to include the time or two I snuck into purgatory and eluded security and stole some metal.
True.
Shout out to Johnny Russell for supplying the frame to the truck unknowingly for most of the week.
And we did have Big Phil over here one night. He was able to get away for a little bit.
Yeah, team effort came together to get this put together. Like I said, I absolutely don't want to take all of the credit. if it was not for Jeremy and keeping me sane, and the intake manifold would not have been put back on Saturday night if it wasn't for Jeremy going, put the intake manifold back on the car.
Yeah, well, I kind of has to run. That's
That's like goal number one, right? Other than like not falling apart while you're running it, but taking around the track, because this week, for those who may not know, you get to be the pace car at the Russell's M40 Speedway
for at least a couple of laps. We're still contemplating whether or not the number 2 cylinder is going to hit the moon, but we will see.
We've not heard Uncle Rodney knocking yet, so.
Well, and I saw you shared the Hartford post. Are you thinking you're going to end up at Hartford, not as pace car, but as a fan on Friday, maybe at Hartford?
I am hoping to get out there Friday. I have all the intentions of going to Hartford quite a bit this summer. I will be at their Night of Destructions for sure, but I would like to make it out there Friday. I did kind of spring onto my wife that, hey, I'm doing some stuff on Mother's Day, so I should probably discuss with her before I make any plans for future track events.
Well,
I do have to say, for being there on Mother's Day, she looked like she was having a good time.
I think she was just happy I didn't get myself or you or Frank killed in front of her and my children on Mother's Day. I think was the biggest excitement right there.
So
that's also fair.
I know we're running low on time here, so do you guys, either of you, both of you, however you want to do it, who all do you want to thank for part of this? Because you've mentioned some names already, obviously with Frank Gates. Was it Sam and Sam from Gates? I
have to. Michael Clark, Sam Nixon, Sam Rejiski. I still don't know how to pronounce Sam's name, but those guys with Gates Chevrolet were amazing. Marsha Boyd with Tub of Towels coming through with a $500 donation. Frank, obviously Jeremy, my rock in this whole project. I'm forgetting everyone. Southeast Ballpark, the Russells, everyone that has donated. I'm forgetting a lot of people. Jeremy, help me out here.
No, this is your department, bud.
Oh,
I'm the guy that lives in the Weldhood.
No, that's not fair. That's not fair. I mean, you're putting me on the spot here, but
I've not done anything but work on the truck, to be completely honest. All the other side of it's been you, bud.
Yeah, I mean, I special shout out to Angie at the Southeast Ballpark, our board president, she's really the one that was able to reach out and get the truck to begin with. So without her, I don't think any of this would have been possible.
So they say it takes a village, right? And so again, that's something that, all that work, all those hours came together in one moment, one time. That's now documented in several spots, between 2 news stations, what I did, what Crashers did, what others have on video. So you made a moment for a lot of people, and it helped a community, of a ballpark community at the same time. So, again, that's just a big kudos to everyone involved with, bringing this whole thing together from, Gates. And just think of all the timeline of things that had to line up for that moment yesterday, going all the way back to people seeing Mo's truck months ago, right? Like, you just follow that timeline to how it progressed, and for that to happen, and now people get to benefit. And Jeremy, kudos to you for, we don't want to take away the identity of Mo's truck, to even honor that, because as just in our everyday world, you can go places and legacies are wiped away, just like that. Blend in. A McDonald's doesn't look like a McDonald's when we were growing up. McDonald's and Burger King and Taco Bell all look the same. If you swap, you took their logos off and said, what's the building? I don't know. It's a fast food joint.
Yeah, that was I got a lot of comments like, oh, you guys should restore the truck and make it look brand new. And it's like, no, at that point, it looks like just another green Chevy Silverado. This has character.
Yep. So, Wiktor, where can people follow you too? I don't want to forget that, because you have, a lot of people think I have a big following, and then, when you have 835,000 people, I'm like, I'm never going to get to that point.
Oh, absolutely, you will. You have the skill and the angles and the timing, and trust me, you have the production skills that I don't have. So you're well on your way. But you can find me on the Facebook, on the TikTok, the Instagram. It's pretty simple. It's Wiktor Ivanovko. No fancy numbers or anything like that. I am on the YouTube as well with 11 or 12,000 followers. I haven't put a lot of time in that, but I'm everywhere. So you can find me in my nonsensical Soviet antics wherever you want to.
And do you want to give people just a snippet of what kind of content you produce for those who may not know you?
So the goal is to just stick with things that will make you laugh, typically in an automotive themed. But let's face it, working in the automotive industry can suck 97.9% of the time. And if it's one thing I have learned is nobody wants to really think about how bad it sucks while you were doing it. You know what? No one wants to. How about this heat when it's 90 degrees outside? So, if I can make it exaggerated and a little bit of laughter throughout the day, that perhaps it will be a little bit better. And that is the theme. They're having a good day.
Well, and in a world where sometimes it could be crappy, right? Find something to laugh at. Jeremy, where can people follow you? Because again, you've done so much in the short track racing community and all that. So where can people follow you and what you do?
I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I have done in the past a little bit of YouTube. Typically, most of my stuff has been Night of Destruction races, just from a driver's standpoint, from a driver's standpoint, from trying to watch so that the drivers can see what is going on with them. I haven't been doing that a lot the last couple of years. I'll get one or two here and there, but I don't really have any kind of a following or any content anywhere, really.
We're going to fix that.
Well, again, you two are such
we
a
might,
awesome.
we might break the internet.
I mean, you're a great team, and that's where I just watching what you guys are able to do, how you bounce off of each other. Again, I just think that that's something that sometimes it's. Once you find your person who you can do that, and obviously Frank, I mean, a lot of people can bounce off Frank too in that sense because of just his personality and just him as a human, right? Like the kindness that he has for a lot of people and care that he has for people that, you can bounce off those kind of people. And so that's something with you two, you could tell your chemistry's there.
Yeah. If Frank initially told me, you got to meet this guy. He's just one of us and he talks funny. The second Wiktor walked up, Philip and I were here. We had a Grand Am that we're still actually going to be running at New Paris, potentially M40. I don't know where else yet, but as soon as he walked up, it was like, no, this guy is just one of us. And he immediately fit right in. We're having a good time. We're cutting up in the shop, and we're getting stuff done at the same time.
I don't know if I immediately fit in. I think I immediately threw a fuel pump across your front yard, but then I fit in.
Yeah. Well, we throw stuff too from time to time.
Well, again, guys, I know we're a little bit past time here, and you have had many, many hours dedicated to this whole project. So I certainly thank you for giving another 30-ish minutes of your time towards this, because it's just huge kudos to what you both did and what the community did to bring this all together.
Well, thank you for having me, for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us, and thank you for what you guys do.
Well, definitely. I'm excited to keep crossing paths. And so I know Wiktor, may be shadowing me from time to time, just to see some things. So I'm excited for that.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to show up randomly and unannounced. Peek up over your shoulder. What are you doing?
Again, it's just thank you, Wiktor, for being a part of our community, because you've already made change at Hartford, bringing your personality there and doing that, and seeing what you did at Russell's and blending in. I can't wait to see what your next project is. And
we're just getting started.
I know. That's what I'm excited for. So again, guys, thank you so much for joining us. And of course, obviously follow Wiktor on social media to keep up with all of his antics and everything he does. Jeremy, especially with Night of Destruction season coming up. I know he was at New Paris a few weeks ago, just kind of hanging out. And obviously we have one coming up on May 23rd. And then I know Galesburg is this Saturday. I don't know if you ever went to Galesburg Night of Destruction, but I get to experience that for my first time this week. And they jump school buses and do all these weird things up there. So I'm excited to see what kind of things they do in Galesburg. So again, if nothing to do on a Saturday, might come on out and see what that's like. So
I gotta race a pace car.
That you'll be busy, but just in case, you never know, or someone listening. But again, enjoy driving the pace car because that'll be fun with late models right behind you, right on your tail. So
There's that anxiety level again. Thank you. I appreciate it.
what better way to end than to give you a little anxiety, thinking about cars behind you doing about 70 miles per hour, chasing you down while you're trying to get off the track so they could do like 90. So.
It's mighty bold of you to assume my truck's going to do 70.
We can get the nitrous bottle out. It's fine.
Oh, that's like Super Troopers right there, and Tommy Boy, right? Or no, not Tommy Boy. That'd be Black Sheep.
Black Sheep.
When he was in Black Sheep, yeah. And I know you're a movie guy, Wiktor, so I knew you'd get that reference. But
Roads.
Yes, but again, I'm going to have to watch it. I think it's on Tubi. But again, guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and obviously, again, kudos to everything that you did.
Thank
You're
you.
very welcome, and thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. All right. Well,
I don't know what to do with my hands.
even 24 hours later, still trying to figure that out, right?
Still, I don't know what to do with my hands.
But again, thank you guys so much, and hope to see you guys around the track shortly. So why don't we just transition in Joel, because Joel's a big fan of Wiktor, and so Joel, here you go. You get to meet Wiktor briefly.
Hello, my friend.
Pleasure to meet you.
Say,
I told
You
Joel,
gave me catalytic advice on how to keep my catalytic converter safe, and now I'm on a list. So
right here. The catalytic converter theft deterrent system.
that's exactly it. Yeah.
Patent pending.
Now I'm on a list. I can't fly anywhere.
To the FBI watching, that is inert. It has been drilled. It is not the one that I keep for. I mean, that is not. That's the only one that I have, and it is not explosive. That's what they.
Is the Claymore still around the shop here, Wiktor?
Yes, it is. I mean, no, we don't have a Claymore either.
Probably look for that. Might not want to leave that laying
No
around.
spicy pineapple. No retired Soviet firearms.
Nothing. There's also not an axe over my shoulder. No. It's fine.
Again, I enjoy you, Wiktor. I just keep bringing keep people laughing, because again, we just need a lot of that in the world now. So
The world is dark enough. If you can't find the brightness, make your own.
oh, absolutely. And the Soviets bring us a smile. Who would have thought that so many decades later? So
There we go.
But again, thank you, Jeremy, and thank you, Wiktor, for joining us. And again, I hope to see you guys soon. And I know Joel, I thought, why am I going to rip Joel off of this moment where, I told him, I said, well, you get to follow Wiktor now. And so he said, I'm a fan of his and the advice. And so I'm like, why am I going to almost rip that opportunity away from Joel? So that's why I wanted to bring him on to just connect.
You better talk about that shirt. That's an awesome
Appreciate it.
shirt. So I at least I expect a 2-minute breakdown of that shirt.
Well, Joel, you want to talk a little bit about that shirt?
So it all started, Jim Vidlac. I don't know if you probably have a lot of dirt racers that follow. Oh, this would have been a race in the off season, really. But Jim Vidlac got a lot of blowback because he always pops up in the back of interviews. And that blowback caused the internet to take Jim Vidlac's side, and he used it for good. He didn't want any of the fame. He's just a guy that kind of pops up in the background photos. So this shirt actually is a fundraiser for the Steve King Foundation that helps racers that are in need. A lot of times we find ourselves falling on hard times, and donations to the Steve King Foundation go to benefit racers in need.
It's a photo bomb.
It absolutely is. Jim, the interview bomber. He pops around. If you ever check out like Flow Racing, he pops up in the background. He just casually just walks through, and you'll know his big old mustache. And yep, that's Jim, the interview bomber.
That's awesome.
You might have. It seems like he has an idea now. That's what I'm thinking.
That's what I'm thinking.
I see the mouse wheel going there, because I mean, even it's like mind blown with photo bomb, you got something cooking up there. I'm excited to see what it is.
Jeremy, I'll be at your house tomorrow at 3:30.
I'll be
If the
here.
FBI is watching, I didn't give them any ideas.
But again, so that's awesome. I forgot. you didn't tell me you're going to wear that shirt, but I know you were so dang proud when you got that shirt, and you even have he has the fat head of him too.
I got a big old Jim Vidlac fat head. He's going to photobomb some interviews this season out at Kalamazoo.
That is awesome.
Well, Wiktor, we were talking about you coming up to Kalamazoo, so you'll have to come up and check it out, and that's where Drew. Sometimes Drew will be there on a Friday. I'm there on a Friday. Joel's there on a Friday, so you have to come check us out. And then, just in case you ever go over to Illinois, I know he's in the staging area, hiding from all of us, so no one can see him yet. But we have Brian Kucaba, who's kind of been hanging out with us, and he's at Grundy County Speedway. So there's a lot of tracks still in this area. If you ever take a road trip and want to see where you can take your Soviet antics.
It seems like you are trying to make my gas bill go higher, but it sounds like I'm going to have to make that trip.
They've done a lot of great things over at Grundy. I used to go there as a kid, way back, and so just to see all the improvements they made since I went, and it's a fairground. So if you want to go see the goats, they have goats, and racing, right? So you could get.
You had me at the goats, so now I'm going to have to go.
So, and I'm gonna.
Oh, I tried not to do it. I tried not to sneeze on camera, but there it was.
Well, I've kept you actually 10 minutes longer than what we had planned, so that sneeze would have been off camera if I had any production skills to say, not to do the Midwest goodbye.
I will give you the blame.
Yeah, I'll take full fault. So
it's Frank's fault. Everything's Frank's fault.
Yep.
Frank's fault. Yeah, and it's not Friday night, so we can't blame Danhausen. So there's no curse here. So it's not a curse thing. It's just it's how it goes. But again, I'll let
blame
Jeremy,
the announcer.
Oh, yeah, that too. And Joel at KalamazooSpeedway.com. That's where you can send your complaints. And I'll filter through those. But
yes, send your hate mail out there. Joel at KalamazooSpeedway.com.
But I'm going to let Wiktor and Jeremy, I'm going to hide you back in the staging and you guys are welcome to pop out or listen if you want to. But like I said, you put a lot of times for this, and I know you're way tired. So I don't want
to take a nap. I think I'll switch over and watch on the phone and go to sleep.
It was a pleasure to meet you. Thanks for chatting.
Absolutely. Pleasure to meet you as well.
All right. So again, we'll see you guys later. Thank you again. And that's where, oh wow, Buju, you gotta have to do this.
I'm gonna be a little taller here.
Sponsors now. So but Joel, again, I'm like, why would I almost rip you of that opportunity? So it's like
I appreciate it.
That would have been poor of me. So you would have had to fire again the production guy for doing that. So
dude's a busy guy, so I would have got it if he had a tight schedule.
Wait, I'm gonna try this Buju and see if that helps you. No, it actually didn't do anything.
Right.
It just it made it a little bit more snug. But anyways, Joel, again, thank you so much for coming on and making time tonight and joining us. So
of course, thank you for having me.
I think everyone's number one thing is, because this was a theme like 2 years ago of how do you say your last name? So Buju, what do you think?
You spoiled it last week for me, so I know the answer.
Well, but what if I said it wrong?
That's fair. Areaux? Is it Areaux?
That's how my family pronounces it.
Okay,
we have no idea if that's right. If you go to Louisiana, or if you go to France, or if you go to Quebec, it might not be even close. But yeah we say Areaux.
I was Areaux before, so I was close. I wasn't too far off.
Yeah,
close enough. It was always handy back in the days of house phones. We could always tell if it was somebody that you wanted to talk to, because they really butcher it. Is Mr. and Mrs. Eric's there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ever heard of them?
I'm with you on the butchered last name, brother. That's why I go by the nickname.
So Joel, do you want to talk a little bit about, because Buju just made his, debut as an announcer on Saturday at New Paris, and he didn't dance on the front stretch to do it, and he wasn't a copycat Top Row Racing Media to do that. So he didn't find his way into an announcer booth doing that. But you found your way into the announcer booth by being able to, shake down and throw down. So you want to talk a little bit about your background and how you got into racing, and then how you found your way up to the perch at Kalamazoo Speedway.
So I started out racing front wheel drives. I started at Kalamazoo. I had fun with it. We'll say that I had fun with it. I mean, I wasn't taking home hardware or anything, but I had a blast doing it. It's always kind of appealed to me, just ordinary people doing extraordinary things. So I found a lot of free time on my hands and built a race car, raced it for a whole season, wrecked it at the beginning of the next season. they needed some help on the infield, so I helped out wherever I could while I was still rebuilding my car. And one night, it was a night of destruction. I ended up, there was either a dumpster fire or there was a big fire up in the upper pits of Kalamazoo Speedway.
Rumor is it's still burning.
There was like 20 minutes downtime there, and people were getting restless up in the stands. So it was Jason Seltzer that was playing some dancing music up in the announcer's booth. I went out and just climbed on one of the ramps out there and just started dancing. My OnlyFans career hadn't taken off, so I figured I'd try to showcase my skills out there at Kalamazoo. And I was getting egged on in the headset, man. I think Top Row actually has a good solid video of that. And I was getting egged on every time I try to walk away. I'd told, hey, get your ass back out there. You keep dancing, dance monkey dance. And so I kept dancing. And then there were some big changes out there at Kalamazoo Speedway later on. And so I got moved up from infield announcer, like infield victory lane stuff, and I ended up being the main guy running my mouth up in the booth there. So now you guys get to hear this voice all night in the Alamo Valley.
Well, and that's something that you took over for a legend, right? Those are big shoes to fill.
That's been very big shoes to fill.
Has there been any nervousness with that?
Oh, 100%. Oh yeah. It's not just Jason Seltzer that's an absolute legend out there. I had family that was a legend out there, Mick Schuler, before even Jason. And it's be extended divorced family, but I still, just because I divorced the wife didn't mean I divorced the family. So I've got Jason Seltzer's shoes to fill. I've got Mick Schuler's shoes to fill. One thing that I do carry up there, it was Julie, Mick's daughter, that told me that he always, because I was blowing out my voice there every night, man. And it turns out Mick had that problem too. And he'd always keep Lifesaver candy, hard candies up there, chew on throughout the night. And that seems to have helped. So I keep those up in the stands, or up in the press box up there. But yeah, it's definitely something that's on my mind every single night. It'd be crazy not to. I mean, that's, Jason's been out there for, 15 years, 16 years, something like that. And
he's been there since the 90s.
Yeah. I look up to that guy.
Jason started in the flag stand and then eventually moved his way up to the announce tower. He's probably one of the longest tenured employees that have been there in the last 30 years. So other than Mick Schuler, who was there in the 80s and 90s. So maybe even the 70s. I don't know. But
yeah, and Jason, I saw commented, gave you the same advice he gave me. Just chat like you're chatting with friends up there, and that sounds solid advice. And I listened to some of the clips Top Row was playing. Man, you did great out there, Buju.
Thank you, I appreciate it, Joel.
Absolutely,
trying to be like
man.
you, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought he was mediocre, but that's just me. I was giving him a hard time, but
Me too.
Lewis, on most nights the internet thinks me and you are mediocre, so we're.
Oh yeah, well, I accept that title just fine. I mean, I think it's like 10-1 right now, so I'll take that. I'll take that record anytime.
Right.
But
if you're mediocre, that means you tried, right, friends?
yeah, then hey, you can't always win the race, but can you win the moment? So.
Or I'm just too stupid to quit. One of the two.
We like the abuse.
Joker comes in. But,
Joel, so did you ever think you would be, let alone an announcer? And I swear you have a doppelganger or whatever it's called that works at the Four Winds or Firekeepers Casino or wherever I was, the Gun Lake. So did you?
Easy, Andy. How many casinos have you been to this weekend?
Who knows?
I never thought I'd end up there. No, not my craziest dream. So it took me about it. I wasn't sure I would do it. So during that whole transition process out there at the track, there was a week I'm like, nope, this is a good time to kind of step back. And Jason Seltzer's shoes too big to fill. Good luck, guys. And I had some people talk me up. Jason was one of them, saying, "Man, get in there and do it." And so I did. I got in there, but no, I never thought I'd be where I'm at. I've always loved racing. I've always loved talking. I've always loved broadcasting. In fact, there was a point where I was going to school. I thought that was what I wanted to do, was broadcasting, and got into sales. But no, to answer your question, Drew, no, I never really thought that this would happen. It's kind of a dream come true that I didn't even realize that I wanted.
This is going to be both for Buju and you. So what's the most challenging thing doing your first night of announcing on your own? And then what's the most enjoyable thing that you've gotten out of it for both of you?
I'll let Joel go first. He's our guest.
Well, let's see. The most challenging thing is I don't know if it's the most challenging. Man, sometimes there's some last names up there that throw you for a loop, and somebody with a silent X at the end of their last name. If I come across that in my race pass and I stumble on it, I'm usually messaging that racer the next day going, "Hey man, how do you say it? Spell it for me like I'm in kindergarten." So pronunciations are big. Keeping everybody happy. That's keeping a crowd flowing. I used to be a DJ. I used to host karaoke out at Rhino, what used to be Rhinos in Plainwell. And that was keeping a crowd of maybe 50, 60 people happy. On a Friday night, I could be keeping anywhere from 800 people to 6,000 people happy. And that's always challenging. Everybody's got different taste. Everybody's got different flavor. And it's how do you meet right there in the middle? So those are real challenges.
Yeah, for me, it was filling time. I mean, I can call a race. I mean, I've seen a million races in my life. I can talk about the cars going around on the track and what they're doing and what's happening. I can make that sound exciting, not to sound arrogant, but I've done it playing PlayStation 2 in my bedroom for so long. I can make a race sound exciting, I think. It's that in-between time where nothing's happening or the safety crews sweeping the track. It's like, I can't tell them to go to the concession stand again. I've done that the last 6 breaks, you know what I mean? So it's finding the stuff to fill the time. And I feel like I got a little better at it as the night went on, but that was the challenging part for me, was when the cars aren't going in circles, what does Buju talk about?
Well, I was talking to Lewis last Friday night. I said, man, I'd love to have somebody to bounce off of up here. So if you're ever at Kalamazoo, brother, you come up to the booth. We'll give you a microphone and we'll bounce back and forth up there.
I appreciate that. Sounds good to me.
We don't pay in Uncrustables, though. We pay in pennies.
I'll take pennies too. Those are hard to find these days.
I was going to say they're hard to find. But where are you finding? Well, he goes to the casino, so maybe that's where they're hiding all the pennies. Well, one thing that Buju did really well that we talked about after, when Chris, Tracy, and I were doing a debriefing at the end of the night, just to, like we usually do, we usually touch base at some point at the end of the night. As I said, well, he was selling your concessions really well tonight, because you brought that perspective of, you travel around and you kept promoting, like, man, these are some of the best prices that I've seen at a racetrack concession. And I think that's the one thing that, more and more people who are coming back to New Paris, I'm seeing more and more posts from drivers who maybe have kind of, for whatever reason in the past, left, but they've come back and they're seeing changes, right? They're seeing finally, it's taken Chris and Tracy time. They inherited a reputation. You can't just get rid of a reputation. And that reputation was many decades in the making, right? I mean, that track's been there for 7, 8 years. It's not something that they just did, but they've had to change things over time. And, more and more people are giving them, credit where credit is due. And that doesn't mean they're perfect, right? And they'll tell you they're not perfect. Sure. Nobody's perfect, right? But I think that's something that you did a really nice job pushing that idea. So that way, people can think like, oh, I'm going to go to the concession stand and, man, that feels like that's expensive. But you were highlighting, well, at other tracks, what you're seeing here is less than what you would pay at others. And so, and you didn't call out any tracks specifically either. Like, you didn't say there, well, dang it, at Bedrock Speedway, they charge this much for a turkey leg. And here you can get, right. You didn't do that. You didn't say a specific track. I mean, you've been to Eldora, you've been to the Dome in St. Louis, you've been all over, right? Like, you have seen prices. Yeah. So that's something that you did really well. And I like Joel's management with the sponsors. He does such an incredible job with the sponsors, where everybody's getting a shout out. He takes the time to pre-record those things, and that's not easy to do. So what gave you that idea to do that? Because it's almost like going to a college football game or an NFL game where they have these recordings going, where that fills in some of that time.
That's actually where I got my inspiration. Was I've been to a lot of professional sporting events, and there's not a lot of time you don't hear something being plugged on the microphone. You go to a Lions game, they're plugging stuff. They're talking about the action on the field. When they're not talking about the action on the field, they're talking about who the official bank of Ford Field is. Go to a K-Wings game, they're constantly, we don't have a big old Jumbotron, but I mean, there's constantly, all the sponsors are listed out there.
When's the last time you've been there?
K-Wings?
Yeah.
Oh, it's been probably a year. I think I went once last year.
That $1 million monstrosity that they got hanging over the ice, you don't think that's big?
No, that giant. We like Kalamazoo Speedway doesn't have a jumbotron. Yeah, like Kalamazoo doesn't have a jumbotron, but like the Kalamazoo Wings, I mean, their jumbotron, I mean, is filled with sponsors. Racing's expensive. If it weren't for these sponsors, man, you'd have a lot more Dollar Generals out there. So I mean, anything I can do to give an edge. You want to throw our racetrack money, that's the least I can do is say your name on the speakers. Give you a little recording that you can share on Facebook or throw a video on and make an advertisement out of. So it's just something that I've always wanted to give back, because that ties back to my racing roots. It's not anymore when you're asking for a sponsorship as a race car. It takes a lot more than, hey man, I'm going to get your logo seen by 5,000 people every Friday. Cool. I've got a sign on Westnedge. I see, my logo gets seen by 50,000 people a day. What's the extra edge? Is it social media? Is it broadcasting? So I've always taken that to heart. If you're going to give our track some money, I'm going to make sure you get some airtime.
No, you were talking about TechWorks Trailer Sales, the street stock sponsor, where they were videoing your commercial and then putting it on their own social media. So that just shows the value. And this is not only for racetracks, but drivers. Taking a quick 30-second social media like Wiktor did with Tub of Towels, putting a skit together. Be creative. That's how you're going to get the extra dollar from these sponsors. That's not there, honestly. Joel knows we get 18 no's before we get a yes. And we put a lot of effort into Joe Schmo's bar before we even got a yes into that. We had to prove the value of the racetrack. So just don't walk into a racetrack or a business expecting you're going to get money for your race team, let alone a racetrack or, a little league organization. That goes for everything involved. Look what Wiktor's doing for the sponsors of the Southeast Little League field over in Indiana. It's just, you got to be creative nowadays. And Joel, you are creative, so we'll give you that. And Buju.
I don't know about creative.
Well, you are. I mean,
I guess thoughtful in that aspect, but yeah, it's important to give back. I mean, you got to support those that support us. Otherwise, these tracks dry up. You want these big payouts, these big purses. It comes from a sponsor.
Well, do you want to talk a little bit about where you are creative? Don't sell yourself short. When you were racing, you would always, like when you would tear down your cars and you do all these things and you're building them together, you do videos, you do different things. You'd have commentary going. Even when you're driving a race car, you had commentary going. So, do you want to talk a little bit about what went into that? Because you always shouted out your sponsors every single time. I mean, you just they rolled right off the top,
sure.
right off your tongue without, I don't even think you took a breath while you were doing it. So
no, for the same reason that I'm passionate about giving these sponsors at the track recognition. I take that a little more personally. You give my race team, you give me money, you give me in-kind sponsorship. Absolutely, I'm going to do the same thing. And that's something that if I could give anybody advice while you're racing, man, if there's a microphone in your face, that's not the car. That's not my car. That's the ABC company Chevrolet. That's the May Automotive Kia Soul. That's the Chapter 2 Customs. It's shout out your sponsors, man. That's an easy plug. That's the Alpha Delivery Monte Carlo out there. It's important. Think about your sponsors. One of the things I learned while I was doing the Victory Lane interviews, man, a lot of these guys are relying on looking at their cars to list off their sponsors. And it's like take a half hour every Friday, write them on a card, recite them. So that way you get a camera in your face, you rattle that off. That's the XYZ company Honda. That's the XYZ company Ford out there. Just give your sponsors that extra little edge.
And
Yeah.
speaking of sponsors,
Go ahead, Lewis.
No,
you
go.
go ahead.
Nope, go. You might help me to my next question anyway, so go ahead.
Mine was more of a point than a question, but I was just after Saturday, I'm never going to forget Hunter Engineering late models, Monteith Best One Street stocks, and the Raber Dirt Works 4 cylinders and new Paris is burned in here.
Options as the Hornets had. You're lucky they didn't have a sponsor. So because oh boy, that feature needed some help. So I was cold and it was windy and I was running out of patience very quickly. I almost got off the roof one time and I said, if you're going to crash one more time, I'm done. I will video the next race. So you can figure it out. But Joel, one thing I wanted to ask, because I know we're also running low on time, and I'm excited. Everything's going fast, and Brian has been waiting too, and so I'm like, man, we are rolling right through here. So it doesn't. That's why I'm like, it's already 8:05. Holy cow! But with that, what has been your favorite memory, not only from a racing standpoint, whether as a fan of any other racing or from your racing career itself, and then what's been your favorite thing that you've gotten to announce, whether that's a mini wedge thing or at the big track, something that stands out to you?
Well, I guess the best thing that I ever got to announce was the birth of my baby girl. I had a baby girl that was born back in August, and so I've had to step out of the racing scene, but it's for good reasons. I love her to death. Her name's Marlo. So that's been probably the best thing that I've ever announced. I say second best thing be the Kalamazoo Speedway mini wedges. Getting to see these kids come up, be rising stars, the next generation, being involved with that out there at Kalamazoo Speedway on Sundays. They race up at Berlin on some Saturdays. So that's been my favorite thing to announce. Probably my the birth of my daughter and the mini wedges.
And from racing,
what's that?
And then from racing, what's a memory either as a racer or watching as a fan racing?
Well, I say the biggest memory is man, that I don't know if you've ever hit the wall out there in turn number 1. But man, that'll change your world. I don't know about a favorite memory, but that's definitely something that's burned into my memory. Making sure that I said Chapter 2 Customs did a great job making sure that my safety equipment performed as designed. Got good camera angles of that one. So I don't know about favorite, but that's definitely one that's burned into my memory out there at Kalamazoo.
And Buju, he gets out of his car after hitting turn 1, smiling, talking with the fans, living his best life, just like before the race and after the race. You couldn't even tell. He was walking through the stands, smiling like I'll get out. I'm like, when I've never seen him like angry, and maybe it does happen, and maybe he's one of those types when he's like a volcano, Joel. Maybe like once you go off, it's like, holy cow, wow, that's the side that we don't want to see again. Stay happy, like Disney. But it's like, I don't know. It's just huge kudos to who you are as a person, because you manage a lot and you do a lot, and you always do it with a smile on your face. And so, Buju, if you didn't know him hitting that turn 1 and you saw him in the pits, you wouldn't even know that he hit turn 1, and it's hard. It wasn't like it was a light tap. It was hard, and smiling the whole time, talking to fans.
You gave my girlfriend an absolute heart attack because all she saw was the steam rising out of turn 1. Poor Devin had a fit over there in the pits because she couldn't see what happened. All she saw was steam, and she saw KTS take off like lightning, man.
So Buju, I know so what did you wanted to ask something?
I was just curious with you starting as a mini wedge announcer before you moved on to the big cars. I did the same thing. I announced mini wedges at South Bend before I did the show at New Paris Saturday. Do you think announcing the mini wedges before you did the big cars kind of gave you a different perspective on the big cars? Because I think it did for me, 100%.
It definitely did, but now I'm thinking about the timeline because I've been involved with mini wedges almost as long as I've been involved with racing. So I want to say, I think I started announcing both around the same time, but definitely It's another world calling these mini wedges. So where you've got, 16, 17 seconds to call a front wheel drive race per lap, you've got 8 to 10 seconds to call a mini wedge race. So it's It's more like calling a race of like herding cats. So yeah, definitely sharpen my skills is to be able to call a race. Not, I still trip over my words a lot, get the turns confused. But yeah, definitely mini wedges was a good exercise. And I mean, that's the idea of the program. I mean, we're not only grooming these kids to be the all-star of, racing. It helps all of us keep our skills sharp. We have a lot of people out there. Taylor Sexton's our race director. Helps keep her skills sharp. She's calling races.
Right.
It's good practice all around. And so absolutely, it definitely gave me an edge before stepping onto the big track.
Maybe that's what we asked Brian when he comes on, because with him being a race director, then he's been a flag manager. He feels like sometimes it's like herding cats, if he has that. So maybe that's what we can ask when we bring him on. But other than that, Joel, I know we're up against time, and you've had a long day already, and you again, you've brought a different energy to the announcing. So I've appreciated it. And that's, you have hard shoes that you've had to fill, with Jason being up there for so long, and, you can't be Jason, right? Nobody can be Jason but Jason. And so
I'm just going to be me.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, no offense. Nobody wants to be Jason because Jason is his own announcer.
Absolutely.
Joel is creating his own identity out there.
So again, that's just,
I want to be me. Yeah.
Hey, before we let him go, Lewis,
yeah.
He's very involved. He's got a lot going on this weekend. He's got mini wedges at Berlin and mini wedges at Kalamazoo. We don't talk enough about the mini wedge program. Let's give him a little plug of what's going on this weekend at Berlin.
Double header.
Yeah, absolutely. So Friday night we have the main action for Fast Fridays. Then Saturday night the mini wedges are in action for the first time out at Berlin Raceway out in Marne, Michigan. If you guys haven't already made plans, definitely want to see you out there. National Compact Touring Series is out there at Berlin as well. And then Sunday, we're going to be back at Kalamazoo Speedway again. We're going to have the mini wedges in action. So for those of us that race, myself, I'm involved on Friday nights. Taylor Sexton races. It's going to be a triple header for a lot of us out there, but looking forward to it. Make sure to check out Kalamazoo Speedway Mini Wedges Facebook page. You can check out all the schedules there. But this Saturday we'll be out at Berlin. Back this Sunday out to Kalamazoo Speedway. So hope to see you guys out there.
Well, and Kenny's built an incredible program with that too, and he keeps doing it and doing all these things. Just he retired to be busy.
A lot of us keep telling him, man. Every time he hits that group chat up, we go, "When's he buying a race car again?" my girlfriend very much included. She, text message goes off, 8:00 at night. Who is it? It's my work wife, Kenny. Is he going to buy a race car?
Well, again, that's. Like I said, I know you just keep busy and stay busy. And again, I thank Joel for connecting me with Federated Auto Parts as a sponsor of Top Row Racing Media when I jumped into that this year. So, and as part of that, he's helped me do voiceover stuff. So you hear his voice across a couple of different things on Top Row. And so I definitely appreciate that because this is not a voiceover voice. So, I know my lane, and my lane's behind the camera. So, but anyways, again, Joel, thank you for that too. But
I've got a face for radio.
Well, and a lot of people think you've done radio just because of how you manage a program, but I say no, he's a DJ. I thought he was radio too, which to me, if you have to manage a bride, that's like managing radio. So because bride's got to be happy, and if bride's not happy, everybody knows. So
it's actually the bride's mothers. You'd be surprised. Actually, the bride's moms. The bride, they're all about having a good time. I don't know if I've ever had an upset bride.
Oh, good, but moms, right? So. But again, Joel, thank you so much for taking time out of your night tonight for joining us. And
thank you for having me.
You got to connect with Wiktor too.
That was so cool. Thank you for allowing me to do that. I've been following him for years.
Yeah, and that's when I almost bumped him off. I'm like, wait, why am I going to do that to Joel? That's not fair. So
I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah,
you checked another one off the bucket list. Chat with Wiktor.
Yeah,
well, you do have a heart, Lewis. You do have a heart.
I do. I try, right? Some people may not think that, but I try, right? So, but again, Joel, thank you so much, and now everybody knows how to say your last name. So,
I still don't. So I just call him Joel.
And I'm taking you up on that.
Call me Joel on the radio because it's too close to Joe.
I'm taking you up on that offer for the booth at Kalamazoo too, so I'll see you up there.
You guys have a good evening. We'll see you guys. Thank you again for having me.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
Joel, thank you.
we'll see you this Friday. Again, now we're going to jump in. I know we're just a few minutes behind, and Brian's been hanging out with us this whole time. So, Brown Man is, or wait, is it Brown Guy?
Brown guy.
See, I messed that up right away. But anyways, we do have, I want to make sure I have the right title there. We have Brian Kucaba, who's done it all in racing, you know, between being a flagman, and then we lost him.
We had Brian.
You offended him. He's gone.
Figures, you know, he's kind of jumped in and out a couple times anyways tonight, you know, so I don't know signal, but it's like, oh, of course we transition right to him, and that's when, even though he's been waiting there, but I'll bring him back on. How you doing, Brian?
Good. Having technical difficulties now. Right.
Yeah.
When you put me on.
I know. I'm like, that's perfect timing, right? It's like
I'm like, okay, cool. I'm hearing everybody, and then all of a sudden you're talking to me. I'm seeing the lips move, and I'm not hearing anything. So let's try this again.
Well, how many drivers maybe hear that, right? You know, because you've been a flagman and a race director, you've had to get people, and you've been a driver too. So maybe sometimes you're like, your lips are moving, but I'm not listening.
Well, if you see how many times I get tagged on memes where they're trying to hear what the race director is saying, and it sounds like wah 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 wah.
But again, that's where I'm so glad that you're able to make time. And you've been hanging out. I mean, literally, you've been here since the start of the show. I'm like, man, he's been here since his time. So I definitely appreciate you joining and being a part. And I know you've been watching too. I mean, I see you in the chat each week and all that. So I know you've been a part of it. But I'm like, yeah, he's just hanging out in the staging area. So so again, thank you for joining us tonight.
Well, thanks for having me. You should have made this a questionable last name episode.
Yeah, right.
How to pronounce people's last names.
Oh, well, and I want to know, I mean, I've been saying it right? Like Kucaba,
yes,
right?
Yes, 100%, yes.
So how have other people announced it then?
Oh, well, we've rearranged the letters all through my life. So I don't know how they figured the B is in front of the C, and yeah, I've had some wild ones.
I would have said Cuba.
Oh,
I've actually had that too, as a matter of fact.
Now I wonder if I got to cheat because I was at South Bend as a fan, and he was the flagman at that time, and he also did him and oh my gosh, why am I drawing a blank? He lives next to the Green Pool guy.
Jason Moorhead.
Mr. Moorhead, Mr. Sprinkles.
Yeah, Sprinkles. I'm like, why am I going to mess this up? But, you know, you guys did an incredible video at Ileana where you did an Ileana walk and going around that. So I know we have so much to cover, you know, I know your time from South Bend and on, and I followed you since you've been over at Grundy, and I know you were training to be a race director, kind of shadowing over at South Bend, and then you got the opportunity, but you've also been a racer, you know, as we, I got this picture from your profile. I didn't know what photographer to tag for it. So I did not tag because I'm like, well, I don't really know who I can tag for it. But
if I remember correctly, I think that is a Goodacre photograph.
Okay. All right. So I'll have to fix that just so they get their credit where credit is due. But you've also been a racer. You raced at Ileana and all that. So in your case, where would you like to start your story?
I guess we can start at the very, very beginning. I didn't come from a racing family at all. As a kid, I seen it on television. We didn't have cable at the time. So whenever stock car racing was on TV, for some reason, I was fixed on that. And my dad noticed it, and he asked me one day, do you want to go to the stock car races at Santa Fe Speedway in Willow Springs? So I got all excited. We went a couple more times after that. And then I believe the following year, my dad had asked me, do you want to go to see asphalt racing? And I didn't care. I didn't know. I really didn't understand what the difference was. So my first asphalt race was at Raceway Park in Blue Island.
Yeah.
And that's where everything really started turning for me. Obviously for the good. So we would go a couple times a year. I remember going around 4th of July, and they had the absolute best fireworks show that I had ever seen. Before I saw the Sours extravaganza of a fireworks show. So as I got older, got into high school, a friend of mine that lived a couple blocks away, his sister was dating a driver that was racing at Raceway. And he's like, "Hey, you want to go? You want to go to the track?" Absolutely. So we went. I met this driver. We talked. We went several times after that. And then one time my friend couldn't go and I wanted to go, and it was a Saturday night. I wasn't doing anything. So I went out there. I talked to that driver, and his name's Lenny Kaprowski, whom I started helping on his car a couple years later once I was uh, pretty much out of high school. And he introduced me to some people, and one of them being Peter Hernandez, whom was touring at the time with the Mid American Stock Car Series. So I got introduced to him, hung out with him a lot, worked in his shop quite a bit, and went touring with him for about a half a season. Back in, I want to say it was like 99, 98, 99. Did a bunch of races with him. Then come 2000, I really had the itch and went and bought a car. It was big. It was a big money. I think I spent $600 or $800 on it. It was a roller, trying to find a trans, trying to find an engine, borrowed this, borrowed that, and finally got the car enough together to run the last two nights Raceway Park was open. So not knowing that those were going to be the last two nights that track was going to be open, we were preparing for the following season. And on the news, it popped up that Raceway Park had been sold and will be closing. So now what do? I just bought a car. I've got plans for the 2001 season, and everything just fell apart. So that is when Ileana was in the middle of redoing everything at the track and put a quarter mile on the inside of the half mile like it used to be way back in the day. So everybody from Raceway that ran street stock out there went over to Ileana. So in 2001, I ran maybe one or two nights. 2002, I ran 5 nights because that was the maximum I could run in order to keep my rookie status. So after following everybody, just taking notes and seeing how cars run, we decided that a full-size Monty was not going to be able to compete. So in the winter of 2002, we came across a metric car. Took everything apart and built that car from the ground up. We didn't skimp on anything. We pretty much put the best of the best at that time in that car. And now it was pretty much time for me to prove myself if I could do it or not. And surprisingly enough, I was actually able to do it and won a couple of heat races that year. And later on that year, we were off at Ileana one night. So we were looking for a place to race. I think about 8 or 10 of us, we went out to Plymouth. Most of us never ever seen that racetrack before. We go out there, we had a ball. I was running third at the time with about 3 or 4 laps to go. My best friend Bill Service was battling with Roger Rubino for the lead. They were trading lead back and forth. Both of them got together and hung up coming out of turn 4 with 2 to go. I motored by both of them, and my heart was racing, and I didn't know what to do after that. I spent however many laps, running third, and now I'm leading for the first time and I have no clue what I'm supposed to do other than just keep it straight. And that turned out to be in my very first feature win of my career. And they always say you'll always remember the first one. Well, after I crossed the stripe, I was so excited, I forgot to turn in turn one.
No.
The car drifted up, and if you remember way back when,
Yeah.
before they repaved everything, there was grass at the top.
Yeah.
So my right sides hit the grass, and I looped it in turn one, and I didn't care if I looked like a jackass because I just won my very first race.
That's so funny.
That is hilarious.
Looking back on it, I could just smack myself for not holding my composure and just making the turn. But again, you know what? It was the first time I ever won a feature. I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would have been at that point. All I wanted to do was be able to race. You know, from when that seed was planted as a kid up to, you know, where I was at then, and to actually come out on top, you know, it was absolutely a dream come true.
You won with flair. That's how you should say. I won with flair, and
Yes.
I did my own little kind of a burnout sort of
Yes.
thing.
Yeah,
And
before burnouts were burnouts.
so you could trademark that and say I started that trend. But you know, and that's where, you know, as you're sharing your story, it's like you and I have very similar pathways in that sense. I grew up going to Santa Fe Speedway. You know, I'm a Chicagoland kid, born in Chicago. You know, lived on the Midway side. Tony Izzo actually worked on my dad's car, and you know, he had an auto shop not too far from Midway at one point, and that's how we learned about LaSalle. You know, it had just come back from being the movie theater, which the screen's still there. It's in trees now, but it's still there. When it was a drive-in movie theater, right? And so, you know, but I've gone to Blue Island, and then obviously I don't remember if we ever went to Rockford or not, but you know, Ileana was a place we went. Grundy is a place that I went as a kid. You know, we did Grundy on Friday nights and LaSalle on Saturday nights, and when they're racing weekly. And so, you know, all these tracks, as you're sharing your different memories, I'm like, you know, these are tracks that I grew up a part of and remember Ileana before the pave and then after the new pave. And then it, you know, it's like they did all those renovations. They only got a few years out of it, right? And so, you know, that's so tough. And I know then the town, you know, the town bought it and it's still there. I mean, they dismantled a lot of things quickly and then left the rest of it. And they haven't done anything with it since then. It's like, man, you know, someone could have got that maybe, possibly, you know, because
I keep playing the lottery.
Yeah.
Because I keep saying if I win a big lottery, the town of Cherville will not be able to say no to me.
Well, and that's where, do you still make trips to that? Because I know that place meant so much to you, where you, Jason, and who else joined you on that walk at
Bill Service was with me.
Yep.
I believe, trying to remember who else was with us. But yeah, that was the first time I had been back at the track after it closed. And to be honest with you, that's the last time I've been there.
Okay.
You know, I've driven by. Every time I drive by, I check myself in there. You know, it's painful to see the sign still there, but it's still, you know, brings back a lot of memories. You know, that sign is still there.
Yeah.
In the wintertime when you go by, there's no leaves in the trees. You can see the bones sitting there. And I've seen drone footage. I know some of the area towns actually still utilize the track for their police departments.
Okay.
They do pit maneuver trainings there. So the track is being utilized for something, but not what it should be utilized for. You know, and if in a dream, if I could bring that place back to life, those municipalities would still have that place to practice.
Yep.
I would absolutely welcome them with open arms and say, just because we reopened as a speedway doesn't mean you can't practice here also.
It's truly a sad deal because I was so excited. I moved into the Chicagoland area about 2015 and actually booked our first NCTS race got rained out in 2015. But in 16, we had a lease deal with Greg McCarnes that we're going to be there with ARCA Midwest.
Mhm.
And racing just got put on hold. Everything went to auction, all that good stuff.
Yep.
But unfortunately, a lot of people don't know is the township or the city of Cherville mismanaged some community funds. I think they used road funds to purchase the Speedway property, and it was just a bad deal. So they should have never purchased it to begin with.
Correct.
They just had I hate to say it, just like any small town would or a big town, may not have been countries in the 50s, and the suburbia moves out there and the people just hate it. They wanted to get rid of it, and they found a way to do it.
Yeah.
But I got to go one time with Jason Salsert and Tony Aldridge there. They had the CRA, I want to say it's probably about 2011 or 2012. It was a lot of fun out there, and it's just sad that the one time we actually had a race book there, we got rained out, and the other time, unfortunately, the owner wanted nothing to do with Greg McCarnes putting one more last race there. So,
Yeah.
But it's sad every time I drive by there. I don't live in Chicagoland, but I used to drive by there quite a bit when I lived over there, and it's just sad to see it sit there. And unfortunately, I never got to see the memories you did, but there's a lot of history that came from that track, like Mike Richardson, Josh Eastoe, and Ryan Hoffman that have run with the NCTS and are really the core founders of it. So even though it's gone, it still gave a lot of, you working at South Bend. So what's your biggest memory you have from Grundy County Speedway? Just as a driver fan, what's the greatest experience that you've had there before it closed?
At
Ileana, sorry.
I was going to say, because I don't have many driving memories at Grundy. I never did well at Grundy. The picture that is featured for tonight for me is the one that sticks out the most. I could tell you about my first feature win at Ileana, but the one that sticks out was Bettenhausen Night 2011. So my wife and I, we got married that year, and leading up to the 2011 season, I had said that I wasn't going to race a full season because we're trying to save money for a wedding and all that. So I said, I won't run a full season. The original schedule for me was going to be 6 to 8 races. So I ended up, I think, running 8 races that year. And I think we had 12 or 10 point nights. The rest of the nights were all rainouts. So my partial schedule turned into almost a full schedule. But I did say I am going to run the Bettenhausen because that's one of my favorite nights to run. And like I was saying earlier, drivers will always remember their first feature win. I think the other thing that they will always remember is when they win on a special night. And to win on Bettenhausen night, that was one of the targets for all of us. It was you wanted to win the Molinar Memorial race. You wanted to win the Elmer Musgrave race. You wanted to win the Bettenhausen race. The Bettenhausen Memorial was geared toward, more for, the super late models, but as each track builds divisions, you have to have, more of a show instead of just one race for 100 laps. So as we were allowed to run on Bettenhausen night, that became a prestigious race for all of us that ran street stock out there. And so we had a crosstown challenge between Ileana and Grundy. So it made it more prestigious. It wasn't just Ileana cars, it was a Chi-Town crosstown challenge. And that year it was 3 races. There was a race at Grundy and 2 at Ileana. The first one at Ileana was on the half mile. Then we would go to Grundy for their race, and then the third leg of the crosstown was for the Bentonhausen. And to be able to win that race, you know, in front of my family, in front of pretty much a packed house, because everybody always came out for the Bentonhausen.
Yeah.
You know, seeing that big of a crowd, and you, a lot of times, like, you may not hear people cheering, you know, if you won, but that night the cheers were loud, and that is a race I will never forget. That is instilled in my head.
So, talking about, I heard you when you were growing up, you were watching racing on TV. Was that NASCAR, or the weekly program they used to put on Chicagoland? Like, I don't know if it was public access or maybe like Channel 52 or something back in the day. There's a lot of old YouTube clips of the Chicagoland Raceway Weekly from Blue Island and other tracks in the area.
It started as NASCAR, with us not having cable at the time. You know, whenever the Winston Cup race was on, that's what I would be watching. Always watched the Daytona 500. Always watched one of the races from Talladega. Trying to remember some of the. I know they televised one of the Michigan races. I know there was a couple others. You know, and at the time, you know, not a lot of people like there is now had cable, or, you know, people nowadays, you know, everybody's switching to streaming. So cable's kind of going by the wayside, you know, as the years go on. But after we did get cable, I did start watching some of those races that they had on public access, from Raceway Park, and that, you know, that kind of put the itch in me also, because I thought, oh well, this is cool. You know, this is a track that I've been to, and it's on TV. So maybe when I get older, I can be on TV. You know, just like these guys.
No, absolutely. If anybody's interested in Blue Island or Raceway Park, just put it in YouTube. There's a lot of great, good content. The weekly show that's there. And I even came across what used to be Pure Stock TV or something, the 4-cylinder reality show that they did out at Grundy.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good content for Chicagoland racing still out there, even though the tracks may be gone.
Motorsports Unlimited too. I'm sure Brian knows about that.
Oh, yes.
Motorsports Unlimited.
Yes.
There's some great content out there for that too.
Well, Motorsports Unlimited, featuring Bill Wilt.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Bill Wilt. But there's some good stuff on YouTube there too. So we talked about Iliana, and you mentioned Santa Fe and all your other tracks, Brian. But I know you also have a lot of history with Rockford.
Yes.
I was there for the last Bahama Brax. I saw your reaction to the tracks last night, and I very much felt that. So talk about your experience at Rockford a little bit and why that place was special to you.
For a lot of people, Rockford tended to be a love-hate relationship. Mine was more so a love than a hate. The very first time I had ever been there, I about went deaf. This was when I was helping Peter Hernandez with his Mid-Am car. So we were there for at the time it was what is now known as the Midwest Tour, but they had a NASCAR 400 lap late model race. So we had our race on Saturday night. We spent the night. On Sunday, we sat in the front row on the backstretch. I didn't realize how loud that place was, and I sat there for 400 laps and was about deaf. I remember driving home thinking all I can hear is ringing in my ear, but for some reason, I absolutely fell in love with that place. In 2003, my rookie year, I didn't bring the car up there. I ended up helping everybody because I wanted to learn more about what this Bahama bracket thing is. In 2004, I finally hit the high banks there, and I just fell in love with the place. You know, the feeling of going down the straightaway and hitting the banking and having that just push you down in your seat was something that I'd never felt at Ileana before, or even at Plymouth. And I thought, boy, this is really different. And the more I ran, the more I learned, the more I appreciated, and the more I loved running a high bank track. Never won a feature there, but did win a couple heat races, a bash race, last chance race. But every year that was like our Daytona 500, and instead of the beginning of the year, that ended our year. But every year I loved and always got excited when the regular season was over, because we all knew that it was time to get the cars ready for the brackets. And the camaraderie at Rockford was second to none. You battled people all year long at Ileana. Even the people at Rockford, they battled each other all year long. When you got to the brackets, the tracks became their own team, and you cheered each other on. And you probably couldn't stand somebody that you raced against all year, but you still ended up cheering that driver on because you wanted to make sure all of your home track cars made their particular feature. That's the uniqueness of what the brackets were at Rockford. And that is something that we're trying very hard to do now that it's at Grundy.
Yeah, and I've been recruiting for you over here. I mean, you know how much fun we had when we came out there last year. Me and my brother Derek both ran the brackets out of Grundy last year. Man, it was so fun. We're recruiting hard for you out here. We're going to try and make that a big show out there at Grundy too. It was awesome time last year. I can't speak highly enough about it.
I mean, you guys have enough cars. You could almost have your own bracket.
The problem is getting them to be motivated enough to get them all ready and operationable.
Hey, that's 5 months away, man. We got time.
You have to start now.
You could be 5 years. I know your brother, Buju.
We're close, man. We're getting there, brother.
Well, so Brian, a little bit, do you want to, because obviously, you're at Grundy now, and some of the history has followed you to Grundy, right? Grundy has taken on a lot of things from Ileana, has taken on a lot of things from Rockford, because it's kind of like the last asphalt track standing, not so much maybe in that area, but it's the one that was connected to so many in that area. Because I know, like, when we would go to Grundy on a Friday night, if we didn't go to LaSalle on Saturday, we went to Ileana because we followed Schuler's. We followed a whole bunch of drivers, or they'd be hanging out at a festival, and we'd go to that festival and they'd give us tire turds and all the things. But so you want to talk a little bit about not only your how you got to be a flagman at South Bend and getting over there and doing that, but then how you got into the whole, learning to be a race tractor and then transitioning over to Grundy, and then now how your role has shaped there. So kind of like go backwards to come back forward where we are now.
All right. So as we're all getting ready to open at Ileana in 2016, the rug got pulled out from underneath us, and we're all trying to figure out, well, what are we going to do? I honestly thought that was going to be the end of me, working at a racetrack and going to races all the time. Because with Grundy running on Friday nights, it was almost impossible for me to make it there. And I thought, well, that's the end of this. And then I got a message from Matt Arvia, and he said, somebody's going to be contacting you about flagging at South Bend. So I got a message from Tony Eldridge introducing himself and saying, hey, we're looking for a flagman if you're interested. So we went back and forth on messages, and I talked to my wife about it. And so we decided, yes, I would be honored to head out there. So that was the stepping stone of that, but we'll back it up a little bit further than that. So after I was pretty much done racing at Ileana, I started working there. I worked in tech, and then I had interest in flagging, so they allowed me to flag practice. We already had a full-time starter there, but they needed somebody to help out, for practice and qualifying. So that's how I got my feet wet doing that. And from there on, that's when Matt had contacted Tony, and Tony contacted me, and I was brought out there. I was introduced to everybody. And the funny thing was, the very first time I walked into South Bend, I thought this was a spitting image of Raceway Park, just with bank corners. I couldn't believe how similar the track was, the facility was. It was almost like I was a kid again. And I had a feeling this was going to be something good. So from 2016 until 2020, when we had COVID, was my time at South Bend. Then after leaving South Bend, I was immediately contacted by Steve Bechtel, who's the promoter at Grundy County Speedway, and he asked me, if I would wanna come out there and work. And Steve and we had been friends for, I couldn't tell you how many years. So he invited me over. I talked to the general manager, Joe DeBello, about it. He said he would love to have me on board. So it started off as doing Raceiver, in which prior to me leaving South Bend, I was just starting to get an idea of what was going on as far as the Raceiver goes. So I told them, I said, well, I never really spoke over it, but I've listened, with during my time in the flag stand. So I started doing a couple different things that I guess prior people that did Raceiver never did. One of them was just talking to the drivers, giving them heads up on stuff. It started to snowball more into wishing them luck, and then thanking them for being there. And a lot of them really appreciated that, for hearing a voice in their ears saying that. And I had a lot of people tell me that they just never had that before. So in the winter of 2020, they were making plans for the following season, and they had some personnel changes. And I was asked if I wanted to become the race director there. And I thought, boy, these are some big shoes to fill. I don't know if I would be able to, take on that kind of role. So again, my wife and I, we discussed it. Steve and I discussed it. And Steve's like, with your racing background, you've been in the flag stand, you've done tech before, you've held a lot of hats, within racing. He's like, I think you'd be really good at this. So I accepted, and really not knowing what to do, how I should speak. It was a rough first year. After the first year, it was basically, I just needed to be myself. And I think after allowing myself to be myself, I think I started gaining some respect from drivers. I ended up having to take a year off. I had a lot of stuff going on at work, the stresses at work, the stresses at the track. I needed to take a year off. So I took, it was 2024, I believe I took off. And yeah, that's right. And then I came back. They allowed me to take over the duties on the ramp, allowing cars out. We had somebody there that was retiring, and they needed somebody, to take over that spot. And I'm like, well, I used to do that at Ileana, so that's right in my wheelhouse. We already had a race director. I told them, if he was ever, off, if he took vacation or whatever, I wouldn't mind filling in that role. So last year, went ahead and I was on the ramp, or I was planning on being on the ramp all year. And then we had a change with the race director, and we were looking at not having a race director. We didn't have anybody. So I stepped in and I said, all right, I'll fill out, for a month or so. Well, the month or so ended up being the whole year. And I wasn't 100% certain I wanted to go back into that role. I had a lot of people talk to me in the off season that really wanted me to be in that role again. Between drivers, crew members, people that I work with there. So come this past March, I decided to take the role back, and that's where we're at now.
So what's the most difficult thing, because obviously you took on a position that is maybe one of the least popular at times, at a racetrack. Maybe being an owner promoter is the next least or the first least, there's spots that are challenging. And so what, for those who are watching, who obviously many of them probably haven't had the headset on, haven't had to make the call, haven't had to do any of those things. What does it take to be a race director, and what process do you go through to make a call or to make the difficult decision? Like, this is a 51-49 decision. We're going to get it right or we're going to get it wrong, but we have to go with what we believe to have happened, or whatever the process is.
So I've had my earful from a few different race directors over the years. A couple I liked, how they did things. A couple I didn't like how they did things. So, I tried to figure out what was the best way to go on about this. And I let everybody know in the drivers meeting, especially, when it's opening day, that I have a team of people that I rely on. This team, they are the people that help make the calls. It's not 100% on me. The hardest thing to me is the call. I don't want to make the wrong call, even though in somebody's eyes the call is going to be wrong. I finally realized that I can't make everybody happy. But if everybody sees it, a certain way, and I see it a different way, I'm not going to say, well, guess what? This is how I saw it, and this is how the call is going to be. I don't think that's fair to, everybody else that's trying to help, because at that point, there's no sense of me saying that this is my team. I'm the problem we had in the past was, I personally, I feel that they didn't feel like they were part of a team. I've heard, in past years before I was in the race director role, nobody would say anything on the radio, as far as what they saw. And I think at the very beginning, when I introduced that to everybody, a lot of people weren't really used to that. Now they understand what I'm trying to do, and I get a lot more feedback than I did, 5 years ago when I first started doing this as the race director. I think the call, I tell drivers that we do it this way to make the most right call that we can possibly make, and we're not perfect. We're gonna miss something, and the other thing that I let drivers know is everybody's vantage point at that racetrack is totally different, and I sit 37 rows up in the air. That's the top row next to the announcer's booth. And I would say I'm 10 feet to the right of the announcer's booth. That 10 feet, their vantage point is going to be different than what I'm seeing versus what the flagman is seeing versus what my tech guys are seeing in turn 1 versus what the turn 2 ramp is seeing, and so on. I stress the vantage point is different everywhere you go on that racetrack. And I think finally the drivers and the spotters, they're starting to understand that, because the spotters, they're affixed on one car and one car only, and it's theirs.
Right.
And they get up in arms. Why didn't you see that? Well, we are a NASCAR sanctioned track now, but that doesn't mean we have that much personnel that we can hire on. We don't have the ability to have 20-25 sets of eyes to have on every single car every night for every race. It's impossible to do that. We're going to miss something. Every track is going to miss something. No, it's how you go about it and how you correct it.
Yep, and I think that's the thing for people who haven't been to Grundy, which I highly recommend. The bleachers, the same bleachers that were there when I was a kid, and you can see the highway, you can see water towers, you can see all the things from way up top, and that's where we always sat, was at the top row. Because that was just, you could see everything, and that track is so big too. For people who haven't been there, that there's a lot that happens. It's a fast track, and but that's where even at Kalamazoo, I'm on the roof with our race director, Raymond. We're right next to each other. And even though we have a great vantage point, there are times that if they get in a certain spot on the track, it is still a little difficult to see, or the angle we see versus if we were sitting over in turn 4 or whatever, right? Where something happens, or turn 3 is not the same. And I think sometimes that, not everyone always understands those kind of things. And a former promoter that used to be around, you would say, if you can get 70% of your calls right in a night, you've done pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Because 70% of your drivers are going to be walking out happy, at least.
Yeah, because you won't make them all happy, right?
No.
Say, you could. I heard someone else say one time, you could sell 100 hot dogs, but people, there's going to be about 10 of them that people don't like, and that's okay, right? You're not gonna be perfect, and so that's something that I think a lot of people, in the heat of the moment, they may forget, but it's like, you're one person in one spot, and people might be videoing, and you have racer wives who have their videos, and you have this person who has that video, and you're like, that you might have that video, but we got to go with what we can and what our rules dictate. And I think sometimes people forget those kind of things, that you have an obligation to the track and the flow of the race and all these other things, and you can't just take their video, especially if it's been clipped. You're like, what happened before that?
Right. And the other thing you can't do with the video is go back and change the call in the middle of their piece.
Yeah.
Right.
All we can do as people that work at the racetrack and people that race is learn from it. There are plenty of times where people have sent me videos. Hey, this is what happened. And again, going back to vantage point, they're affixed on their car only.
Yep.
My head is on a swivel looking around, making sure that nothing's happening over here in turn 4 while the leaders are coming out of turn 2. I'm constantly scanning that racetrack, making sure, somebody doesn't accidentally, come out of the pits walking. Not that we would ever have that, but, we've all seen bizarre things that have happened at racetracks.
Well, and you're probably responsible for managing even part of the facility in that sense, where like, did someone fall in the grandstand, or did we have this, or did we have that, right? And because you have a headset, so that might fall on you too. And you're like, well, now we got to throw a caution, now we got to throw a red flag because we have a medical emergency. We got to get people in the right spots, and there's just so much that goes into it that I that's where, we've been lucky in this podcast where we've had so many people who have done so many different roles to kind of explain, different parts. And we've not had a race director yet, where, now it's kind of like, hey, this is a crucial role at a track, and it's not easy. I think most people know it's not easy, but I don't think everyone knows everything that goes through your ears on any given night.
Correct. You know, and it's not just what goes through my ears, it's what I have to deal with,
Yes.
you know, on that top row.
So then, what do you think has been the most exciting thing that you've done as a race director, or the most exciting moment that you've gotten to experience, you know, going back from not only your days as a kid watching, but then to racing and getting your first feature win, and then flagging people's first feature wins, or these things, to now race directing, and you know, you have the difficult side, but what's that fun side?
The fun side is watching the victory, and especially if it's somebody that's overcome adversity, somebody that struggled. First time winners
Mm-hmm.
are such a highlight for me. So for those that don't know, when I'm on Receiver, there's a few things that I say every single time we have a division come out. For the feature, you know, I'll let them know we're one at the line. I thank everybody for coming out tonight. Let's have a fun, safe race. And whether it's a heat race or a feature, I will congratulate number whatever it is on your heat win or your feature win. And that small saying has gone such a long way with a lot of these drivers. It was just something I felt nice to do. You know, I wanted them to know that I appreciated them being there, and I want them to know that yes, I'm happy that you won. And so many times I've seen first time winners and been able to call that out on Receiver to them. That to me is probably one of my biggest joys of being a race director there.
So now, Buju, because I know I've asked a lot of questions over the last couple.
You're good.
You know, I know I don't want to cut you out here.
So one thing I wanted to ask you about, Brian, is outside of our local area, I know you take the yearly trip down to Talladega.
Yes.
Race down there. So what's maybe your favorite memory from your yearly Talladega trip to watch the NASCAR race?
Oh boy. Well, I've been going down there since 1992. So there's quite a bit of history in my mind going down there. I mean, you know, this past spring was an awesome race. One of the better ones that I've seen in recent years. I was there when Dale Earnhardt won his last race. Another track that's full of first time winners throughout its history. I think like the transitions, you know, we go from Winston Cup racing to Nextel to you know where we're at today. And the transition of not only just sponsors, but how the cars transition.
Yeah.
And if you haven't been there as long as I have, then you haven't really noticed the transition in the racetrack. Mm-hmm. You know, there are so many improvements that have happened over you know the last 35 years that I've been there. Yeah. You know, I remember back when there was no tri-oval grandstand. You had the main grandstand that was coming out of 4 that went through that short chute there, and then when you went through the tri-oval, you had your next grandstand, which is where I usually sit, right by the start finish line. Yeah, I mean, you know, 35 years ago on there, I mean, there's a lot of memories. There's a lot of fogginess too, just for all the years going. Another time I remember is when they had something like 60 or 70 different lead changes, like official lead changes. Mm-hmm. You know, when they changed the aero package the one year, you know, and they said unofficially there was well over 150 lead changes. You know, between the time you hit the stripe 2 times.
Yeah. So it's safe to say that tradition's not stopping anytime soon, huh?
No, not anytime soon. And then we're actually heading down to Charlotte
Okay.
next Thursday. We leave, and that has become a tradition for my wife and myself. We've been going down there since about, I want to say, like 2005. Oh, no. It was after that. No, yeah, about 2005, 2006, I think was the first time we went. And we haven't missed many Coke 600s since.
Yeah. That's
So we'll look forward to that.
Yeah, a pretty good one to add to your schedule for sure.
Yes.
I know we've kept you a long time, and I definitely don't want to zoom out too far. What are you excited about at Grundy this year?
Well, we've got a bunch of different things coming up this year. We just finished race 1 for our 6-pack series, and what that is we have 6 big super late model races this season. Instead of running them weekly and to cut the cost down for them, we ended up doing a 6-race schedule. They're racing a couple more times, but it's 6 main races. So on our schedule, the next time we're having them out is June 13th, and it's honoring Larry Schuler. So that one's called the Junkyard Dog Triple 30s. It'll be 3 30-lap features. For those that are coming for the July race at Chicagoland, if you all want to come out a day earlier on Thursday, July 2nd, we are having leg 3 for the 6-pack race. It's going to be 100-lap super late model feature that night. We also have our now popular figure 8 school bus races. The first one is going to be on June 6th. There will be advanced tickets for that. So if you're coming out, I definitely suggest getting advanced tickets for that. We also have trailer races on April 1st, which is also going to be our 5-0 night. So for those that don't know what the 5-0 night is, these are actual police officers racing. They're current and retired police officers in Crown Vics, and they raise money for Illinois for special needs, like that. They've been doing this for several years, even prior to coming to Grundy. We got a hold of them a couple years ago when their original race was canceled and they had nowhere to run that race. I believe this is year 4 for them, and they absolutely love running the asphalt. They've been doing dirt all the years prior to that. So yeah, for special needs, this is a great benefit for for kids that that are in need for help financially. They raise a lot of money through not only just this, but they also do Cop on a Roof at the Duncan locations, and they raise a lot of money through that as well. So that is one. If you want to see a bunch of cops racing each other, crashing into each other, that is something to watch, because most of them, they're not regular racers.
They can race the Crown Vic, so that's even more exciting, right?
Yes. And the ever popular Bettenhausen Memorial, toward the end of the season, that's our last main show. That one is slated for September 17th, 18th, and 19th. The 17th will be practice. 18th, we have limited late models, street stock, pure stock, Super Cups and Crown Vics. And then the 19th is the big one, where we have the super late model Bettenhausen Memorial 100, featuring the Mid-American Stock Car Series, Midwest Super Cups, and our Sixer division. And to round the season off is the Bahama Bracket Nationals, that we're hoping to see a bunch of Davis family racing cars showing up.
That's the plan. Well, at least 4 of us want to come race. So yeah, and we're recruiting everybody. Believe me, anybody that's heard me talk about racing in the last 7 months or whatever it's been since the brackets has heard how much of a blast I had. So I'm trying, brother. We're trying to bring Indiana, Michigan contingent out there. It's so much fun. I can't preach enough.
I hope so. I would love to see the Bahama brackets become as big as what it was back when I was racing. And I feel that the opportunity is there, especially now that it's closer for everybody that's east of here to come and travel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Grundy's a super easy commute from the South Bend area where I'm coming from, so that definitely makes things easier too. Yeah, I just can't speak enough about that race. For even with it transitioning over to Grundy recently, and it's still growing, and it not being as big as it was at Rockford when we were there at Grundy last year, it was still so much fun. One of my favorite racing weekends ever. So yeah, get out to the brackets if you're free that weekend. And I know you are because it's so late in the year. Get over to Grundy for the Bahama brackets. Have some fun. I can't preach enough how fun it is.
Do not tear those cars down just yet. Wait till after the brackets.
Well, and that's one that I thought about. I almost went last year because I haven't been to Grundy since probably 95 or 96. I'm trying to remember when we moved to Indiana, and we just never went back. So for me, it's been quite a few years, but I still follow it. I still have fond memories of it, and the hot dogs there. I'm sure they've changed by now, but
Yes.
I mean, but there's, you just remember those things. Like you said, you have flashbacks as like a kid, when you do these different things. So that's one track that, I just haven't been back to in a long time, where it's like, I just kind of want to get back in those stomping grounds. And so I know I have the Bahamas on my schedule just to be a fan. I don't really get to sit at a track and just be a fan. And I don't know if I would be able to just be a fan. I think in my head, I'd probably have clocks running. Like, I should be doing this. I'm at a racetrack. I should be doing that. I'm at a racetrack, right? Trying to restrain myself. But, but that's something that, I have that on my calendar for, just to go sit. Bring nothing with me, just go sit.
And Brian mentioned earlier talking about the track versus track rivalries back in the day, and I still, the first time I ever went when it was still at Rockford, it's very much a racer's race, which I think also gives it a very special feel too. So awesome weekend. Get out to the brackets.
I'm salty for it. We Eric Fraser raced one of our front wheel drives down there, and left there thinking we finished second. And like 3 weeks later, we got a nice note saying we had been DQ'd. So for going over our qualifying time and got no check. So, but the brackets were always fun. We had a blast when that was probably 15 years ago when we went to Rockford with it. But it traditionally, I don't know. I'll ask you this, Ryan. Do you think the novelty of it is not the same as what it used to be? Because like Super Shoot Nationals and the brackets used to be pretty much the same thing, Kalamazoo and Rockford. But at Kalamazoo, that was wearing off, and we made a format switch probably the last 2 years and went to just like individual racing per classes, and it's skyrocketed the car counts. How do you think you can get that back to where it was at Super Shoot and at Rockford for the Bahama Bracket Nationals?
We've been beating our heads up against the wall, just not for the brackets, but just like the whole season overall. How do we get cars back? How do we get fans back in the stands? What is it going to take? I've seen so many different tracks offer this. They try and do that. We've done several things. I don't know if there's a great answer. I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer. You talk about the novelty. I wouldn't say the novelty has worn off as much as just the times are so much different now. The expense, in my opinion, the expense is one of the killing aspects of this. When we built my car, I didn't spend this kind of money, but that car was every bit of a $10,000 street stock. Nowadays, a $10,000 street stock, you're running at the back.
Yeah.
There's no other way to look at it. I think, when the brackets were in its heyday at Rockford, what you saw out there were a lot of big enduro car type cars.
Mm-hmm.
We don't, that was a big chunk of that field, and we don't see that anymore. Luckily we have a big support from four cylinders, be it Hornets, pure stocks, front wheel drives, that contingent of car has helped. I think what's going to help is shows like this and the word of mouth and the excitement, that we provide in getting people wondering, hey, what's the Super Shoe Nationals all about? What are the small car nationals at Slinger all about? What are the Bahama brackets about? That kind of, we need to continue to advertise, these type of shows in order to keep these type of shows going and keeping them unique like this.
Absolutely. It's all about user experience. If people like Buju and his family are going down there and having fun and they come back and they tell 10 guys, they might bring 5 more with them out of those 10 guys they talk to. So it's the same thing with our Freedom Factory events. They didn't go for the money. They did not travel 17 hours from Michigan and Wisconsin and 20 hours from out on the East Coast. Well, $2,000 sounds like a lot of money for a compact race. It didn't even cover the fuel bill if they won. So just creating the experience, and I think you guys are on to that.
Well, I think another thing that is helping in the last few years, how much the Crown Vics have exploded, across the country. That has become it's become like a racer's division. You don't have to put big money in them cars. You can still find those cars all over the place. You can get a decent deal on them, throw a cage in it, get your safety stuff. In reality, you don't have that much money invested in them. We're trying to build the division that we have called the Sixers. It was a division that migrated down from Rockford when they closed. It's a V6 division, very basic. You put a cage in it, you have your safety stuff, and that's it. Everything else has to be stock. So how many V6 cars are out on the street? A ton of them. So you're telling me that all I got to do is put a cage in it, knock the glass out of it, any kind of like lights, they got to come out, and I can go racing? Absolutely. You can probably build a Sixer car with only needing maybe $1,500 to $2,000. And sometimes that's even with purchasing a car.
Wow. And you just think about that, and you think like that's I don't want to say small potatoes, but that's small potatoes to sometimes what people feel like they need to spend, right? Like I need to spend $10,000 to win. I don't know. Sometimes they see cars that you wouldn't think are winning are dominating, right? They just built it with what they have, and they didn't put much into it. But they did the work, right? They didn't just kind of buy the work; they did the work.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say these type of divisions, like what we've got with Pure Stocks, Hornets, Sixers, Crown Vics, these types of divisions. These are the ones that are helping these racetracks stay open. The cost to run a super late model on a weekly basis is just out of this world. I mean, you're 6 figures upside down right off the bat just getting a car.
Yeah.
And then you add the tire bill and fuel, and you want to race, and you're close to you're pushing easily $500,000 for a season. I certainly can't afford that.
Yeah, me neither, brother.
Probably not. I mean, especially without sponsor work, right? And sponsor help, like strong sponsor help, like actual money from sponsor help, not just they're friends of ours and we put them on the car because they're friends and they help us with like actual money. That's probably really difficult for a lot of people.
Not everybody's Ty Majeski where they can get Menards on board.
Or I mean, just think of in this area, right, there are some businesses in Michigan, Indiana that have in the past been strong short track supporters, but they've cut down, right, because they've even laid off people. They've had this, they've had that, like right sizing their workforce, and so the sponsor dollars are getting harder and harder and harder to find, and even from a corporate level, right, and so it's just one thing that it's like, and that probably won't change for a while. Right. So it's like, we got to do our part. And I think a lot of people, again, they get on social media and say, man, if you offered $15,000 to win because they see that some other track can do that. Well, that track might be able to do it, but not every track can do that.
Right.
They got to live within their means so they can open next week, and it's 15,000 to win. What does second place pay? What does third place pay? So yeah, it's 15,000 to win, but you're probably paying $40,000 in a total purse, right? And 500 fans in the stands are not paying for that purse.
Not at all. Not at all.
So I know I was looking at the time because I'm like, man, you have been with us for now, what, 2 hours and 20 minutes? You've been on the show just kind of hanging out in the stage here, and then we brought you on and you've been on for an hour plus. I'm like, we've kept you a long time, and it didn't feel like that long because I just knew you had so much that we could cover, right? And so and especially with you going to Grundy and doing that, Boozoo and I on Thursdays have been promoting Grundy and getting that out there, just because it's a track that we both have been to, and I know we have Illinois fans who watch the show or watch it later. So it's like, go out to Grundy, go out to Kankakee, let's support these tracks. So I know I've been purposeful in the graphics of including Grundy. A lot of the names that you're mentioning, like Larry Schuler, like that's someone that the Schuler family we followed around and watched, and so it's like it's kind of throwback for me hearing you talk about the different things. So, but with that, I also don't want to keep your time any longer because I'm like it's late for you and us. But anything else good for the group too? Because I know we could even scratch more with Grundy. But I want to make sure that I don't cut anyone else's question out.
I'd say in closing for everybody, just we talk about it all the time. Go support your local track. We can say it till we're blue in the face, but when you have your home track taken from you, it's a feeling that, let me tell you, people, you don't want to feel. My heart was broken when we lost Ileana. I spent so many Saturday nights there. I went to Raceway for so many years, but the feeling when that closed versus when Ileana closed, I can't compare it, because I literally was heartbroken when we found out Ileana was no longer. Same thing with Rockford. Rockford, we had an idea that eventually it was going to happen as everything was being built up around there. And thankfully, the Dearies gave us one more year with the announcement. And I remember that last day leaving the brackets, knowing that was it for Rockford. I remember talking to some people saying that leaving Rockford was actually harder than leaving Ileana, because Ileana, like I said before, the rug was pulled out from underneath us. We didn't have a final season. We didn't have those final memories. We were preparing for the next season. Rockford, at least, everybody was prepared. Everybody knew what was happening. And I think that one hit harder in some ways than Ileana did, but Ileana will always be my home track. And if you have a home track, please support it. If you're on vacation and you want to head out to a racetrack, go search for one. When we've gone down to Charlotte, I went to a couple tracks down there. One of them's now closed. I'm thankful I went to that track. I got to experience something down there. You were talking about going to Grundy, you know, possibly for the brackets, and just not doing anything, just being a fan. You know what? Do that. It's very relaxing
Oh
to
yeah.
just sit there and not have any responsibility, and to just actually watch racing. It's refreshing. But if you sit high enough, I'm gonna put you to work.
Bob, I probably would be at the top row because that's just where I'd like to sit. I've even as a kid, that's where we sat.
It's
And
a good view. It's a good view. It's just a long hike.
Oh yeah, and those stands are not short. I mean, like I said, that was my favorite thing, is always watching the highway. You know, during the downtime, we'd watch the highway, see the semis go by. There used to be, not too far from there, was a truck stop that we would stop at. My dad always ate the liver. That's not...
You must have went to our place.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's
Yeah. So that restaurant is no longer there. It's a different name now.
okay.
But you when was the last time you were at Grundy? Back in the 90s?
Like 95, 96.
Oh, you would be so shocked at how much it's developed around there. There's not just one truck stop now.
Okay, yeah.
And Route 47 is no longer a 2-lane country road. It's a 4-lane divided road.
Oh wow, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's been a while, and I mean, there's so many times that I put Grundy in my maps to get ready to go, and I'm like, no, you know, I don't, right? And it's kind of one of those that I just need to get over the hump, because it, you know, if I have that time, it's like, you know, I can go and sit there and I can try to be a fan. And I just know, like, I sat one time at Springport, you know, just because there's downtime. I'm like, okay, I need to go do this. And I didn't need to do anything for like 2 hours. But in my head, right, it's like, okay, it's 3 o'clock. I need to go do this. It's 4 o'clock. I need to be doing this. I need to be here by 5 o'clock, right? And so I don't know the last time that I actually just sat somewhere and just sat with no responsibility, you know, which I choose. But yeah, I mean, that's the other thing, to get back and just see how much it's changed. You know, Kankakee, I remember the combine demolition derbies, and I don't even think they do those anymore. You know, and so that would be something that, you know, we used to hike Starved Rock and Mathiasen, and we'd go to LaSalle, we'd walk the Illinois Michigan Canal. I mean, there's just so many things that we did as a kid there, where it's like, I kind of want to just have like a throwback weekend, just to go back, see, experience, you know, just to sit and do. So so you might see me at some point this season, you know, if there's an opportunity. I know, at least for brackets, I'm pretty sure there's nothing that weekend for me where I'm like, okay, we're just going to circle this, but not as a videographer, not as a GoPro camera guy, as a fan.
That sounds great. So yeah, make sure you more than circle it. Make sure you put a check mark on that.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and if you guys are ever wanting to come out, let me know. You know, I'll meet you guys, show you around. You guys can hang out with me all the way up top. I'll bring oxygen tanks for all of us, because we're gonna need it. I keep asking them every year, when are we putting the escalator in here?
I stayed when the couple races we did there at the Midwest Dash, we were parked all the way on the back by the airport. So I just stayed up there for heat races. I never went back down. My big ass couldn't take it anymore going up and down those stairs.
I mean, they're tall. I mean, the pictures don't even do it justice. But you know, when you're at Grundy, because from the highway you can see everything.
Yes.
So there's that turn on the highway where you can start to see the glow of the track. Like if it's at night when you're leaving, right, you can still see the glow. Right. But even on the way, you're like, unless that's been built up, it's like, oh, there's the bleachers. And
you can still see it. You can still see it.
Yep, they're high above, and you're like, okay, it's time. And I would just, as a kid, I just get so excited because we were almost there. Mm-hmm. And that's when we lived in Joliet. We made that drive all the time. So that was our Friday, Saturday routine. And like I said, always at the top row. We never sat anywhere different. It was always at the top, and because it's just, that's the best view. So I think, you know, other people may have their spots, but I'm like, I've always loved the top row. So but it's a hike.
It is a hike, but yes, the view there is you're right. It's the best view to see the whole track.
Yes. And the pit area, clearly, I mean, you know, it's just, it's something that, yeah, like I said, it's one of those that I've there's so many times I can't even count how many times that I've put Grundy County Speedway right into the thing, and I'm like, okay, I could go this way or could go that way, and then I just clear it out, and I'm like, okay, maybe next time, but I know I need to change that. So
Yeah, I'm gonna hold you to that now throughout the season.
oh, absolutely. Well, and I probably could be talked into bringing some GoPros, but the other camera will stay. You know, James Dimmitt does a really great job out there, so I'm not gonna step on him. He can have all that. I don't want to do that. So that's from like if I leave the cameras home and someone asks, I'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't bring anything. You know,
there you go.
I've been told never do that. That's actually a dumb thing to do. But I'm like, I don't know. I might try it one time just to see what I think.
Just be a fan.
Yes. Even if it's one time a season, right? You know, just to give yourself a break and be like, this is what it was like. This is what I remember just sitting here.
You know, so going to the just be a fan part, I am trying to make it out to M40.
Oh, yeah.
So forever, everybody's like, you got to go to M40. Forever, oh, you got to race out at M40. So, and what the Russells have done, you know, over the last few years, I'm like, I really need to make it out to M40. So I have that kind of circled there on my list. You know, and if it's not that, I might pop in at Plymouth. My original plan was to be there for the Mid-American Stock Car Series.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You know, but now with the rain out and the rescheduling, now it's, you know, it's on a Friday night that we're racing, you know, at the end of this month. So I won't be able to make it out there for that. But there's a possibility old BG might be popping in at Plymouth.
Shoot me a message if you head out this way, Brian.
I most definitely will.
Good.
Well, again, that's where I'll probably be messaging you at some point, be like, so I'm gonna come, just to do it. You know, even if because I have a Friday night where you know Kalamazoo's off and I've filled in, you know, something just as a possibility to go. But again, it's kind of one of those that sometimes I'm like, it'd be nice to just not that I want to do it all the time because I obviously love what I do, but just to go and sit, no responsibility, stuff my face with food, and just sit there and take in the night as a fan again, just to almost kind of like a refresh, right? Like a reboot, you know, just to do it, because I think that sometimes that even as drivers, you know, you'll hear drivers who are not chasing points anymore. They're like, yeah, I got to go pop open a beer and sit in the stands. And it was really nice. You know, it's not that they don't love racing, and it's not that they weren't itching because they heard an engine and they're like, you know, in their head, it's the trigger, right? But they're like, but I had my beer in my hand and I knew I could drink it because if I were in the pits, I wouldn't be able to. So
Right.
they're like, this kept me here in the stands. And I'm like, okay, you know, I can get chicken tenders and sit happily.
And at the same time, you're supporting.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we all need to do. So, and again, I thank you for supporting us and be able to come on. And I mean, tonight, like I said, you've dedicated a lot of time to us tonight. And I know you've been watching each week, you've been popping in. And that's when I said, hey, we need to get you on, you know, just because of your story and I knew what you'd be able to tell. So that's where I definitely appreciate you supporting us. You know, because we're all in it together. That's the thing that I pulled from, you know, Jay Free. You know, I kind of changed his quote a little bit. One time he said, well, we're all in it together alone. And so I kind of think I've twisted it to where, you know, we're all doing our part individually. You know, so what can we do individually to support this whole community? Because it takes a village to do these things and keep tracks open and, you know, support drivers wherever that may be. Because, you know, you've seen tracks close. Tracks that I used to go to as a kid are obviously closed. And so in this area, you know, we've lost Mottville. We almost lost South Bend. We've lost Ileana, right? You know, we might lose Thunderbird. Bearfield, you know, there's just tracks that we have lost that it's like we need to appreciate. You know, it's easy to go on social media and complain and do all these things, but eventually a for sale sign is going to be on there, and it's never a guarantee that it's going to remain a track. You know, data centers are popping up everywhere, solar farms are popping up everywhere. You know, there's property that people are probably looking at to build something. So it's like, just remember, once the for sale sign goes on, you may not have something to complain about again.
Right. Yeah,
So-
and you're gonna wish, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years down the road that you wish you still had that place to complain about.
Yes, because and I think sometimes people in general don't think about those kind of things, and it's not on purpose. I don't think it's always intentional. I think it's just right. People get in the moment, they get in the heat of the moment, they get in whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like, but just remember, your words do carry actions at some point, and you're going to hit the wrong button at the wrong time, and gates locked, for sale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so many times where I'm in the middle of sending a message to somebody, that somebody complains about what happened Friday night at the track, and I'm in the middle of typing it out, and I'm rereading it, and about 90% of the time, I'm deleting the whole thing and not even responding.
Yeah.
Because I've been down that road. I've been the complainer, and I've seen what happened. So now it's like, it doesn't even have to really so much do with my current role as much as it does, these words are they're not going to be able to be deleted. They're always going to be there. Somebody will be able to pull those up at one point or another. Even if I were to edit it, somebody much smarter than me will be able to show the world that Brian originally said this, and 10 minutes later, he realized that, he should have said this, and he edited that out. But this is the original, posting that was there.
Yep, and I think a lot of times we forget that, but I know it's 9:35 for us. It's 8:35 for you, and I know Buju, you're probably getting close to time because your day starts early. So, Brian, what we'll probably have to do is just like what we've done with Ron Vrash, as Grundy gets into its season a little bit more, bring you back on to promote it again, or even bring you on a Thursday to promote, some of those big shows coming up. That way you never know, might be able to sell some tickets on this side if, just to travel around, or at least get a car over there who might be like, I'm going to go try that, So again, I appreciate all of your time tonight. And with that, like I said, if there's anything else good for the group, if not, I think we're ready. But again, thank you, Brian, so much for coming on.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. Anytime you guys want me to chat with you, I'm more than happy to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a pleasure.
So don't forget this Thursday, everybody. While we saw Brian on here, we'll obviously be plugging the Grundy County schedule again this Friday or this Thursday, like we have been. So definitely get out there to check it out. They have a great program. But Thursday Night Throttle is back at 7. But other than that, this has been the Monday Night Rewind winding down with Brian Kucaba, race director at Grundy County Speedway. So Buju, it's we're a few days away. It's almost time to turn left and go fast because.
We'll see you at the races.
We'll see everyone at the races again. Thank you so much, Brian.
Thank you, guys.